Welcome to episode 7 of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on the 9th of February, 2016. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me as always, the yin to my yang.
Oh my, caffeine rage.
On today's show, we'll of course be talking about the games we played. We'll be discussing Perter, Molyneux, and Godus Wars, Hearthstone's newest update, the Division's console parity problem, and broken PC ports like Tales of Symphonia being unacceptable. We'll also have your letters and discuss our Steam weekly deals. Felt like that was very professional. Right off the bat, though, before I even ask you how you're doing, a couple of house cleaning things. Number one, we received a letter, and then I got a couple of comments about how our last episode in particular, was extremely long.
Yeah, we got a bit away from ourselves, especially in the letter portion. We're still learning how to deal with letters.
Right. And if you haven't noticed, we're two friends who like to talk a lot. I promise there's a lot of stuff that we actually cut out that is just us like messing around. But we've taken all of that into consideration, and we are going to do our best to stick to a 3-part format. The first half of the show is going to be us discussing ourselves and what we did. The second half is the news or the discussion topics, and the third half, yeah, you get it? Anyways, the third half is where we go over our deal recommendations and, of course, the letters that you guys send in to us. Also, one other thing, I got a comment about some weird audio stuff last week. That was my fault. I apologize. I had to do a lot of messing around with my audio last week. Even though my voice was back, it was not quite as strong as it normally is. So I had to go in and do a lot of little micro edits and just generally boost my entire audio, and that did cause a few sections to sound a little weird. I apologize for that, but everything pretty positive is back to normal this week.
And also, I'm sorry that I'm dragging you behind with my voice as well. Definitely can't be helping.
So, now that that's out of the way, Rach, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty well. I'm playing catch up on my YouTube channel a lot this week. I didn't catch the plague like you did, but just had a general tiredness. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it's just my nocturnal life catching up with me, or just not sleeping all that well, which is very likely, and because I have a bit of insomnia usually.
You've got SAD.
Yeah,
that stands for seasonal affective disorder.
Yes, it's called All Four Seasons.
So in catch up, you've been recording a whole bunch of stuff that you haven't in a while.
Yeah, I've been recording like a mad person, just trying to get back ahead, because my usual recording cycle is I do Binding of Isaac and then one other game, and the second game alternates between weeks, and I record usually 2 weeks worth of content at once, which tend to explain my streaky nature in video games. Some nights I'll have a really good night and be on the ball and do a awesome performance. Then there's the 99 other percent of the nights where I'm just terrible.
Well, yeah. Except golf. You seem to be good at golf, although we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm some sort of idiot savant when it comes to golf. I'm not sure what it is.
So, what games have you played this week?
I've only played really 2 to talk about. One is the new series on my channel, if you don't mind me plugging a little bit more away.
Selflessly, shamelessly plug as much as you want. I do it.
And that's Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube. And it's an indie game I think you would love because it involves mining.
I like mining.
It's SteamWorld Dig.
SteamWorld Dig. Is it on... it on Steam?
Yeah, it's on Steam. SteamWorld Dig is definitely on Steam. It was a 3DS game that got ported to PC and basically got a graphical overhaul, and it's actually not bad. I've gotten a few hours into it. Obviously, haven't completed the game as of yet. I've only just got the game really going on the channel, and which is about 2 hours. About 2 hours worth of content, 2.5 hours, somewhere around in there. And it's sort of a Metroidvania with a mining mixed into as well. I definitely love the art style and the theme of it. It's a robotic steampunk western.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Seems interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It does have a bit of a grindy element where if you look on the screenshots, you only have a limited amount of inventory that you can carry at a time, and different ores that you could carry. You could carry in different amounts. Like, I'm trying to remember exactly which one it is because it kind of all jumbles together after a while. One of them you could only carry one at a time, so it takes up a full inventory slot, but it's worth a lot. And there's the trasharium, which is literally just trash that you sell for scrap metal, and you get like $2 or $3, but you could carry I think you could carry 4 per inventory slot. And it's just going back to town every so often, and there's also an element where you have to have a light source. In the upper right hand corner, there's this meter that is constantly ticking down when you're underground, and as it goes, your light source diminishes more and more. So you also have to manage that, and it lasts, I think, 3 minutes base. But killing enemies could give you the extra oil to power the light source for a bit longer. It's an interesting mechanic to try to keep you from just, digging straight down to the best stuff, because that's what it really is about. It's about making it so that you have to do a certain progression.
Interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of Metroidvania games, but the art style is really neat, and it does have mining. And you know how I feel about mining. Our listeners might not quite understand, but I might have a problem when it comes to that.
Yeah, you definitely have a problem, and we'll get to that in one of your games.
I can't possibly imagine which one you would be talking about.
Actually, it's probably more than one of them.
Probably.
Well, yeah, it's not a bad game. I'll have more thoughts on it as my series progresses. And I will say that I did get it as a review code, and it's only like the second game that I've done on my channel that I've gotten review copy for. There is definitely going to be more on the way, though, because I do have something that I'm going to be working on my channel, but I can't really talk about this week because I'm still catching up to be able to do the extra thing.
Right.
Which I'm basically where I am normally on recording cycle anyway, so I should be able to do it, but don't want to promise more than I can deliver. I'm definitely not being a certain person in our lineup for news topics. What can I say? What?
Nothing.
Cheap shot?
Just laughing. Don't worry about it. Carry on.
But really trying to think of anything else to say about it. I've only gotten like the first impressions area of it so far, and it is grindy, I will say that much. And it is a bit easy to miss stuff just because of the diminishing light source. If you go down when you first enter the mine, and you're able to basically drop down pretty quickly into your old tunnels to continue mining for quite a while. And as you go down, you see all the stuff you missed, and there's this weird thing where you can't mine while you're jumping, which sounds pretty normal, but for a robot, you would think that you'd be able to latch the wall and mine or something. You can only dig up one tile. You can't dig while you're falling, and you can't dig while you're jumping either. So it's very easy to miss valuable stuff, especially with the diminishing light source. And that's one thing that kind of got to me.
I wouldn't have that problem. I would just strip mine from the ground to the bottom. I would spend 100 hours in that game literally just clearing the ground.
Actually, that wouldn't work because you would cut off yourself from the top.
Well, okay, I'd have to make, I don't know, a ramp or a staircase or a ladder chain. I don't know how it works in that game, but some way to get out. And then other than that, I would strip mine the entire map.
And this is why I referenced you in the first episode of my series.
Let's see, it's on sale for $5 right now on Steam.
Uh-oh.
I'll think about it. I might update you by the end of the show as to whether or not I actually buy it.
Well, I'm going to be looking for a new co-host now, and
Oh, come on.
Be sure to send in your applications to vglpodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, ye of little faith. I play Eve and I still managed to do this, so come on.
Yeah, but see, you could do Eve passively.
Yeah. So?
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have talked about this game. But moving swiftly along to the other one before I completely lose my co-host.
Right. Carry on.
I dug out one of the games I recommended from last week, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and I have to say that I almost want to retract my recommendation for that.
Yeah, I looked into that this week too.
Did you play it?
No, I considered playing it. Like I, air quotes, bought it since it was free, yeah. So it's on my Origin account. But I went to go watch some YouTube videos because I was like, do I really want to play Need for Speed? And like I watched some reviews of it, and I was like, oh, I'm really glad I didn't play this. No manual transmission.
I gave it a fair shake. Usually I go with automatic transmission, especially in these games where you have to pay attention to everything except the road at times.
Nope.
You know, you have to pay attention to all the things popping up and flashing, saying all the leaderboards and all the cameras and, oh, look, there's a cop and he's going to be chasing me for the next 15 or 20 minutes because I can't shake him because he's faster than me.
Nope. Game could have been an 11 out of 10 must own, but if there's no manual transmission, I ain't playing it. I don't do card games unless I can do a manual transmission. I also race from cockpit.
There was a lack of a manual transmission. I guess that's the American in me. It's kind of weird how Americans are so pro automatic transmission, and the rest of the world's like everyone's does manual.
I'm an American. I like manual transmissions.
Okay. Well, sure, comrade.
Are you calling me a communist because I like a manual transmission? That's intense. But fair enough. Duh. Let me go get my fuzzy hat with the hammer and sickle on it. And yes, I do own one of those.
See?
I bought it some years ago as a novelty to hang in my dorm room when I was in college. But it's actually quite warm and comfy.
I played a heavy on a Team Fortress 2 Highlander server, so trust me, I know all about the Russian hats.
But anyways,
getting back to Most Wanted.
Yeah.
It's a game that made me pine for the 2006 version of Most Wanted.
Which is saying something, because in the line of games, the original Need for Speed Most Wanted was not that great. It was okay, but it wasn't great. It was
better than this.
Yeah. That's saying something.
Well, there's such a thing in gaming that I call the mood killer. You know, you get in, you start up the game, and then just something happens that just kind of takes you out of it and just makes the experience kind of blah for the rest of it. For this, okay, well, first of all, it has the overly pretentious opening cutscene that acts more like a music video than anything else. I don't know why Need for Speed needs to try to make a story. Even though I do have to admit, I like the overly cheesy full motion video that the older Need for Speeds have. I'm not sure if the newer ones have them now or not. I know this one didn't.
Yeah, they do. A lot of the new, at least up until the most recent one that I've played, they still have the cheesy FMV cliche story. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, well, this wasn't even a story. It was basically a music video.
Okay.
With just enough story. It was more, not even story, it was more like just explaining game mechanics, how to progress to the higher tiers of the game. But then, after the opening cutscene, what the mood killer for me was they did 3 screens of advertisements for DLC. I mean, full screen advertisements saying, you buy this pack and you get this, and this. And yes, I realize I got the game for free. But I was kind of almost like in a reviewer mode where I'm not considering how much it cost me. What would the normal person be thinking when they see this?
Right.
And if you're not getting it during the free month, you're still paying money for this game. and you're getting literally this full screen advertisement for 3 sets of DLC less than, let's say, 4 minutes into the game. I mean, you haven't even done any driving at this point, if I recall correctly. And it was just a complete mood killer. And also, throughout the game, it's structured really weird. If you have ADD, this is either heaven or hell for you, and I can't decide which. Because, like I said, there's things that pop up all over the place. There's all sorts of little challenges. If you ever played Burnout Paradise, think that, only add cops and write in crayon Need for Speed instead. And that's
okay.
Oh, and take away the better damage modeling, because I guess the car manufacturers don't want their cars to be too dinged up. But there's so much popping up on the screen, and the way you progress in this game is you get points in, very gaming. And you get points by winning races, and the races are tied to the individual cars. So if you're driving a Chevy, for example, a random Chevy, I can't even remember the first one that you find in the game. It's pretty early on.
Camaro?
Definitely not a car guy.
That's usually a big one, like the classic muscle car, Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. But you get your Chevy car, and you have a set of races for that. But then you're driving down the street, and you see like a Ferrari. And it's like, oh, pull over. And you're basically stealing these cars. You're carjacking them or something. You're grabbing this car, and it has its own set of races and its own set of points. So let's say you soup up the Ferrari. You have to go back to the Chevy for the old set of races. So all your upgrades that you work so hard to get, which you get as rewards for winning these races, no longer applies. It's weird. Instead of doing car divisions, your muscle cars, your street cars, your drifting cars, that sort of thing.
Right.
It's just individual cars.
So it took the Ubisoft car game, open world, United States.
The crew?
Yeah, the crew. So it took the crew's model for each car levels up individually, and somehow made it worse.
Oh, definitely.
That's what I'm hearing. Because all the old Need for Speed games either had
they had
upgrade
divisions.
shops. They either had the divisions, and you could get upgrades that applied across every car in a division, or you could just buy the general tuning shops and then take any car you wanted to it.
Here's how crazy this system is. You have to win a race to unlock nitros.
Okay.
Think about that. Pretty much a standard thing in every Need for Speed game. You have to win a race to unlock it. And some of these races are pretty tough because the cops get involved. And that's my other real complaint about the game is the cops.
Yeah, that was a big complaint in the reviews. Not specifically the cops, but the AI. It has got awful rubber banding.
Oh, the rubber banding is just crazy. I was winning one race, and I looked back and just saw the competition just coming at me and a good double my speed. It was just ridiculous. But the rubber banding is even worse with the cops because in order to be able to evade a pursuit, it does sort of like GTA 4 where it has the circle on the mini-map and you have to get outside the circle and then hide out for a while or go get a paint job or whatever. Only there's no way to instantly get out of a pursuit. If you get a paint job, only thing it does is it drops your essentially wanted level down, your heat level. It doesn't instantly remove it, which makes no sense because, okay, the cops are looking for a red Camaro. Well, I'm driving an orange one. It's not me. It's weird, you know?
Yeah.
And in the old Most Wanted game, they had ways to, I wouldn't say instantly into pursuit, but they had ways of trying to kind of fighting back against the cops. They had, I want to call it pursuit breakers if I remember the term correctly. where you could go. You're probably looking up now, or you hear the
It's
typing.
been a while since I've played. I'm just trying to refresh my memory on some of the things from Most Wanted because they kind of change and or refine from game series to from game to game. Because there was Most Wanted, there was Carbon, there was Undercover.
Well, if I remember correctly, Most Wanted had what they called pursuit breakers. Like, you could drive under a scaffolding and the scaffolding would drop down across the road, and cops that got caught in it would be taken out of the pursuit, and it would be a way to pare down the numbers so you could try to get an evasion easier.
Yeah.
It still wasn't easy to get away from the cops, but, even out the playing field a bit. In this, you have to get completely outside of the cops, get outside of the circle. And then it does another circle where it's, your last known location. You have to get outside of that. Then the meter starts ticking down. It basically, each level of your heat that you had, essentially wonder levels, like I said before, has its own, let's call it life bar, and it slowly ticks down. And after you get out of the first rank of heat, the pursuit's over. You evaded them. No matter, there's no way to quickly put that down.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly you could turn off the engine, but even then, it's you're still sitting there waiting, and the cops are like superhuman because they sought me in some places that they really shouldn't have seen me. Let's put it this way: I evaded the cops. I did a jump up onto an elevated rail, and I was hiding there, and they saw me through the railing. A solid bridge-like structure. They saw a cop car saw me from directly under me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Real nice. He had them X-ray eyes on. See, that's what it was.
Yeah, really. Fucking RoboCop.
I'm seeing if the old Need for Speed Most Wanted is on Steam, actually.
I'm not actually sure if it is or isn't.
It is not. Some of the best Need for Speed games aren't on Steam. They've got Shift, which I thought was really good.
Oh, they have Undercover.
They have Undercover, which a lot of people dislike Undercover, but I thought that it was pretty good.
I remember it being pretty decent. It's been a while since I played it, though.
Hot Pursuit was okay, but I didn't like the fact that it got away from the open world racing aspect.
I just remembered something else that kind of annoyed me is that they really, really, really try to be Burnout Paradise in this. You know how in a Burnout game you crash and it cuts the cutscene and does this whole thing of watching your car tumble for about 10 seconds?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, it does this in Most Wanted as well. But the thing is that you're just sitting there watching. You can't do an aftertouch and try to take somebody out. And after this cutscene, your car is still considered damaged. It has that pseudo life bar.
Right.
So during a pursuit, you trigger that cutscene. The cops are suicidal as hell. They act like you stole all their donuts or something. So they ram you, and it triggers the cutscene again. And it's just, you get caught in this cycle if you don't get away from the cops very quickly. And I'm not talking about, evade the pursuit. I mean, just, get moving again because you're at a dead standstill. It's not like in Burnout Paradise where after the cutscene you're given a rolling start. So there was one time I got caught in this cycle and I saw the cutscene like 4 or 5 times because I would get put back down and here comes Carl Winslow slamming me into me again because I stole his donuts.
He really wanted those donuts. He was hungry, man. He took them away. I was about to ask a question, but I totally forgot what I was going to ask, so don't worry about it. Is that all the games that you played this week that were just you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Most Wanted would be better in co-op multiplayer, which it does have, but subjecting other people to this.
Yeah, well, no offense, but I'm not playing it. No manual transmission, I'm out. I could probably put up with a lot of the garbage in the game, but no manual transmission, that's my breaking point. So games that I played this week. Well, first, we should talk about our shared game, which was Winning Putt Golf. which you mentioned on the last episode, and I was like the most excited person in the world to play this game.
Yeah, you really surprised me on that.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, I played it a bit myself this week, like by myself, maybe 3 or 4 hours by myself, and then we played on stream for, well, you had to leave for part of it, but we played for 4 or 4.5 hours on stream Friday night.
Yeah, I heard things got extra salty after I left.
Yeah, Jim showed up, and he was Jim. But so, and then you and I and my wife played it on, was it Saturday night?
Yeah, it was Saturday.
We played a couple of hours, and then I've played a couple of hours since then.
Yeah, you said your wife doesn't really do video games all that much.
No, she's not a video game person. I mean, she's got a few games that she likes to play, and occasionally she'll be in the mood like to play some video games together, but most, she prefers board games to video games if we're going to play something together. But she actually likes the game. She says it's fun, and she likes to make fun of us while we play. And I don't really care what her reasons are. I mean, if she's going to play video games, by all means, play away. But, yep, I'm going to keep playing it this week. And I was considering, and obviously I have to run it by you since you're my Wednesday night co-host, but now's as good a time as any. I was considering doing Wednesday night winning putt this week instead of Wednesday night Warframe.
Well, I will miss having somebody actually to play Warframe with, but it sounds like it's a lot more interesting. Just because, Warframe tends to be a bit grindy, and it's probably not as good to stream.
Yeah. I mean, we can alternate back and forth or whatever. I'm so excited to keep playing golf. And it's fun to play by myself, but it's a lot more fun to play with my friends. But you can think about it.
Yeah. Are we going to pull anyone else on it?
Yeah, we'll get our usual crew to come play. Spaceman and Ghost Shark both like playing it, so we'll get them.
And we'll get Jim just to be salty in the clubhouse.
Oh my gosh.
I still need to go back and watch that.
It's going up on my YouTube channel. That's Gaming Psychologist on YouTube.
Ding.
It's scheduled for, when's it scheduled for? Tomorrow? I can't remember if it's scheduled for tomorrow or Thursday, but it'll be up soon.
Yeah, you always kind of throw me off because I saw you just put up your Wednesday night Warframe today.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's your normal schedule or
no. I'm trying to get better about scheduling videos.
Behind.
I'm just behind.
You put up something that says Wednesday night on a Tuesday.
I'm trying to both catch up and get better about scheduling videos ahead of time, so that I'm not like, oh crap, I forgot to post a video today, because that's happened a few times. But
the scheduler is your friend.
But winning putt's a lot of fun for those of you who have never played it or didn't really care when we mentioned it last week. It's a golfing MMO that is just kind of silly. Like, you eat deviled eggs, or is it boiled eggs?
Boiled.
You eat boiled eggs to get more powerful for like one shot so you can hit a ball farther. You wear...
assuming you don't slice it into the woods.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. Or play in the sand for like 4 shots. I've done that too.
Well, I did that one time. But you've done it multiple times, so that's worse.
Yeah. But I'm starting to get... I'm level... Did I make it to level 10? I'm either like at the end of level 9 or the top of level 10, but like I'm starting to get slightly more powerful from training and stuff like that. And I'm starting to notice a difference versus playing against accuracy players. I'm actually starting to get a good, 20, 30 yards on them. And so,
oh boy.
Even though like it's really hard to hit precise shots as a power player, the range difference that I can get on them is enough to make up for it. I'm starting to be able to make it onto like par 4s and 2 shots. I can get on the green in 2 shots. So I've got a few more birdies and things like that. I mean, I've got a really good short game anyways. So if I can just nail down my long game a little bit better and using the abilities and the power-ups, I'll start going... How would I say that? Going in the negatives? Getting a better score in golf. Because the lower your score is, the better.
Yeah, but the problem is, getting those good shots because the shot speed goes pretty quickly on a power player.
Yeah, that's gotten a little bit more difficult, but so far I'm able to handle it. I have pretty good reaction timing, and I have silly pants or shorts. I have shorts now, which are even sillier. I'm so happy about those shorts. I want a hat with like a little like poof ball on top of it, and then I would be complete. My shorts, my mismatched shorts and shirt with a poof ball hat. That would be great. I'd be so happy. Dressing like the stereotypically bad golfer. But it's a lot of fun. If anybody who listens to the show wants to join and play with us, just send us a message on Twitter or an email or something that you started playing, and we'll add you to our friends list, and we'd gladly play a round of golf with you. When you first start, there's no way you can do 9 or 18 holes. You struggle to get through 3.
Yeah, eventually you can work your way up to 6 holes. It's just the level gating, I guess is the proper term for it.
Yeah, I tried to play 9 holes the other day, and I'm still not high enough level. I think that if I had not used any abilities, that I could have made it to probably hole 8 before I ran out of stamina and mentality. Because I was playing pretty decently, but I used powers a couple times, and like by hole 7, I was at 0. But I'm getting close to being able to play at least 9 holes. And then I don't know if it resets for 18, but if you play 18 holes, like after you do 9, if it reset you back to full stats, then I could do 18. But I have no idea if it does that or not yet.
No idea as well.
And then we played one other game together this week, which all I'm going to say is we played a game together. It's for something we're working on, and that's all you're going to get to know about it right now.
Well, I will say this other thing is that your mining problem really showed itself there.
No, it's not a problem. It is an asset for us to use. Because while you were out doing something else, which was also helpful, it's not like you were wasting your time, you come back and I had dug out a really, really big hole. A big one. And I think your comment was, wow, you look at you go, you little mole. Mining efficiency.
Yes, the mole.
That's where it's at. And some people might be able to guess the game that we're playing from that. We shall see. Anyways, the other game I played this week was, of course, EVE Online. We're finally not at war with anyone, and my corporation moved to a safer area of space. So, yay! I've spent the last 3 days just mining. Because I need to rebuild my resources. So I've got both of my characters mining, and tomorrow or maybe Thursday, I'm going to use a referral link and create a trial account so that I can have 3 accounts mining. Because
you're saying that you didn't have a problem.
I'm not going to spend money on the trial account, so it's not a problem. I'm just going to use the referral link so I can get a 3-week trial instead of a 2-week trial. And then I'm going to mine a lot for 3 weeks and then give everything to my normal player, and then the trial account will go away. And if we're still not at war...
For now.
If we're still not at war, I'll make another trial account and do it again.
I have to wonder just how many dead trial accounts are out there.
Probably a lot, because, I mean, you can do this for anything. There's a lot of stuff you can't do on a trial account, but mining... Like, you can do all the basic stuff. So you can get a basic mining ship, basic combat ship, basic trading ship, like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just going to set my guy up with a basic mining ship and just set him loose. I mean, he won't be able to bring in the amount that I can bring in on my main account or even my alternate account, but it would be probably a 30 or a 40% boost overall in productivity. And I can live with that. But there were...
well, can you?
Yes. Yes, I can. I mean, I could always have 2 trial accounts at the same time. You can't run a trial account and a normal paid account on the same machine. There's something different about the game, like the launchers. And if they detect each other, one of them won't work. But I can run both of my paid accounts on my main machine and then 1 trial account on my editing machine, and then 1 trial account on my laptop. So then I could get like a 60% increase.
And remember, send in your applications for co-host to vglpodcast@gmail.com.
There might be some diminishing returns, though, because manning 4 accounts on 3 computers might be, taxing, even for mining. So, we'll see. I'm gonna do this weekend after Valentine's Day at least, while we're still at peace.
I think if you do this during Valentine's Day, you'll end up on my recliner.
A long drive. I don't know how I'm gonna haul all of my computer equipment and set it up in your living room.
But it is a comfy recliner.
Recliners are comfy.
This is overstuffed. Well, at least mostly. The cat had its way with the arm, but.
Oh, I almost forgot. So, in EVE this week, CCP, the developers, released a really big update that changed around a whole bunch of stuff in the game. And
yeah, I figured we would be talking about this in some way.
Oh, you knew about it?
The skill point thing?
Yeah, well, that and some other things. So basically what they did is, the biggest change is that now skill points, there's these things you can buy called skill extractors, which basically, if you have a high enough level character, you can extract skill points and then sell them on the marketplace for money. And they said that this was a way for new players to be able to catch up a little bit faster. Not that, it has diminishing returns, so the more skills you try and inject into your character, you get less and less skill points as you level up your skills. But if you're a brand new character, you could still benefit quite a bit for quite a long time from it. But anyways, they said that it was going to be affordable for new players, and not that it would be cheap, but if you worked hard, you would be able to purchase them. And they come onto the market at 700 million ISK a piece, which in the grand scheme of things is not that much money, but in my entire time playing, since I restarted my account, I've only made about 500 million. And so I've been playing.
Is that total across all years, or?
No, that's just on my new account. I've made about 500 million. And so I've been playing pretty hard for 2 months at one of the most profitable things you can do in the game. I mean, it's not the most profitable, but industry is pretty profitable if you are diligent and put in your time and your research and all that jazz. So, and I can't even afford one. Granted, it's...
come on, a new player just needs to get a sugar daddy. I mean, let's be honest.
They do. That's a viable play strategy. Find yourself a sugar daddy. Or sugar mama. Women play too. But anyways, I do realize that it's the first day that they've released, and so the market is like, oh my gosh, this new thing, the demand is ridiculously high and the supply is kind of low. Because you do have to buy the extractors with... you don't have to. Because you can purchase... Okay, so there's a currency called Aurum, which is you can use it in their store to buy cosmetic items and a couple of other things that you can buy with real money. And you can buy the Aurum in-game from players who sell it, but it's really expensive. So, I mean, you can buy these extractors with real money, or you can buy them with Aurum in-game. But anyways, they have a real-world value as well. So not a lot of people have been purchasing them yet. And so the supply is lower and the demand is higher, and they're brand new, so everyone's excited. I'm really hoping that they level out to about 200 million a piece. I feel like that's pretty affordable for a new player, even though it still sounds really expensive. In a few weeks, you could get 200 million.
Come on, it's only 200 million.
I mean, in a few weeks, you can get 200 million if you're doing just about anything, pretty diligently. And even one skill booster...
Including getting sugar daddies?
Oh, yeah, including getting sugar daddies. But even one skill booster, as a low-level player, you'd get the full effect. So 500,000 skill points. That shaves off somewhere between 15 and 20 days of training time, which for a new player is basically you can get into a battle cruiser immediately with one of those. So once they level out, we'll see if there's more complaining to do. Also, CCP broke a bunch of things. Wormholes are broken. They introduced a whole bunch of skills that older players could already do, but now they're tied off behind another skill that costs costs like 5 billion is to buy the skills and then months to train them. And so older players are really mad because there was no grandfathering program for people who had already trained the necessary skills to be able to do the thing already. That sounds kind of vague, but it's way beyond me. Like, these are people who've played the game for years and years and years and manage, corporations that controls areas of space. Like, this stuff is beyond my knowledge in game. But they're really mad. I think they're rightfully mad, but I mean, they're raising all kinds of hell over on the forums and in the subreddit.
Oh, come on. You're supposed to call them entitled and be done with it.
No, I'm not going to do that because I would be pretty mad too if...
And you're not a games journalist anymore.
That's true. I'm not a games journalist, so I can approach things sanely and with intelligence. But
to be fair, there's no such thing as a game journalist anymore. They're bloggers, unless they need to be called journalists by their own reason.
Yeah. But, so that's the Eve news for the week. I really want some skill points. I really hope...
Okay, now time to wake up.
Yeah, time for you to stop drooling. So, in the nature of efficiency and professionalism, there ends the first half of our show, unless there's anything else you'd like to discuss.
What? Oh, sorry, still waking up.
All right, then, moving on to the news portion of our podcast. Our first news article, let me pull it up here. I just mentioned professionalism, and I'm sitting here with nothing pulled up in front of me.
Bravo.
Perter Molyneux and Godus Wars. So I think there's two parts to this one, which is, of course, Perter Molyneux, and then how we feel about
Actually,
Godus
technically
Wars.
3 parts if you call both games its part, because Godus Wars is sort of splitting a feature off of Godus. If I understood correctly, it's a weird thing. There was this whole thing about game splitting this last week and actually a couple of weeks. I'm not sure when Star Citizen announced, or if that was always a thing. But there was a thing this past week of a bunch of games splitting apart. But Perter Molyneux made the cut because he's Perter Molyneux, and do we need another reason?
Well, okay, let's discuss Perter Molyneux first.
Okay.
First of all, how do you feel about Perter Molyneux as I'm scared to say the word person, but as let's say how do you feel about Perter Molyneux as the sort of figurehead that he is in the games industry?
Did you ever watch the movie Memento?
No, I have not seen that.
Well, okay, I'll give you a brief summary. It's basically a guy loses his memory and he has to remember through basically Polaroids and tattoos on his body. At one point, he takes a photo of someone and writes on the back, "Don't believe his lies." That's Perter Molyneux. Okay, I shouldn't say lies for Perter Molyneux. He gets carried away very easily when he talks about his projects.
Nope, Perter Molyneux is a pathological liar.
Oh, so you do still work in games journalism?
Okay, so don't let me cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought before I jump in. I will admit that I just had to just jab that one in there.
And for reference, that's referencing a rock paper shotgun interview that they basically attacked him and caused him to do a media blackout for the better part of a year, actually.
Yeah.
I will give full disclosure. I don't have a lot of stock in Perter Molyneux games. I haven't played a lot of his very recent stuff. I played some of his older stuff. And that was really before I started looking into what's upcoming, so you don't really get into the hype. See him basically promising the moon, and you end up with a painting of the moon instead.
Yeah, they say shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land among the stars. But with Perter Molyneux, it's shoot for the moon, and if you miss, hopefully you don't crash back down to Earth.
Actually, I'm going to say for Perter Molyneux, you end up hitting the sun and getting roasted to a crisp.
Well, my thoughts on Perter Molyneux. I don't actually think that he's a pathological liar. Like I said, I just had to jab that one in there. I do think that he's a brilliant visionary, but he doesn't have the willpower or the restraint to be able to rein in his visions.
My God, he's George Lucas.
He's the George. Oh, that's interesting. He's the George Lucas of the games industry. That's. Yeah,
he's
actually,
the idea man, but when you ask him to actually implement them, you end up with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, a mess. Although
I would say that as a one-off, but that makes sense.
Yeah, that actually makes pretty good sense. Because
I'm scared now.
He just gets carried away so much. At least in the past, he doesn't. In this most recent press release interview that he did,
Yeah, it was an interview.
Yeah, he didn't seem to get carried away. It was just like, here's the game, here's when it's coming out next week, and we're working on the next game. We're working on is called this, and that was it. That was the gist
he
of what
gave no info about the upcoming game. But you could tell just by his manner of speaking. It wasn't an audio interview; it was all text. He was being very, very restrained. He was holding himself back big time for obvious reasons. I'm going to have to try to dig up the Rock Paper Shotgun article, aren't I?
You can.
They just attacked him big time on. Well, right out of the gate, they asked him what it's like to be a pathological liar.
Right.
And, I mean, that's your opening question for an interview. It just boggles my mind. And that's why I hesitate to say games journalist.
Yeah. So in contrast, I'm actually a pretty big fan of a lot of games that he's developed. Despite its flaws, I really enjoyed the entire Fable series. Well, I should say the main Fable series, 1, 2, and 3.
I played a little bit of 1. 2 never came to PC, and without 2, had no interest in playing 3.
Right. So, I like those games. I've played Black and White. I like Black and White.
Black and White. Sorry to interrupt you again.
No, go ahead.
Or maybe I should just throw in my thoughts on these games as well.
Sure, go ahead.
I loved Black and White up to a point. About what was it? About 2/3 of the way through, where you lose your creature. Spoiler, by the way.
Well, they're on what? How old is Black and White? 15 years old? Older than that?
Well, who knows? There could have been somebody out there about to play it that decided to listen to our podcast before they got started.
Well, sorry to that one person out there whose experience we ruined with Black or White.
Yeah, it turns out it's black, by the way. But once you lose your creature, and if you get it back, because that level actually bugged out on me and I wasn't able to complete it because, well, the other god, I believe it was Nemesis, would send waves of plagues to try to stop you from taking over towns to reach the enemy temple. And at one point, he sent out this just pack of wolves to kill everyone in a town. And I thought, that's simple enough. Just send them on fire with lightning. And turns out they lived through the lightning and got to the town and burned it down. And it completely bugged out the game because it destroyed the town.
Nice. But
I was just going to say, overall, it wasn't a bad game up to that point. And Black and White 2, I actually own a hard copy of. And it's not nearly as good. I think it's more because they focused on a more military aspect of it.
I never played Black and White 2. Just the first one. I played Black and White, Populous, Dungeon Keeper, and then the Fable series. I know he's done some other games, but those are the only ones that I've played of his. Yeah,
he was with Bullfrog for until it got absorbed by EA, if I recall correctly, right?
I've only known him to be in Lionhead Studios. Let me pull up his Wikipedia
let me go
page
double check
right
that.
Here. Oh yeah, he was with Bullfrog.
And I do love myself some old Bullfrog games.
Yeah, he's with Bullfrog before they were absorbed by EA, and then he moved to Lionhead before they were absorbed. Well, he was with them for a while after they were absorbed by Microsoft, but now he's with what's his current studio? 22 Cans.
Unfortunately, I don't think he was. My favorite Bullfrog game was actually Theme Hospital, and he wasn't. No, he wasn't involved with that. So, but Dungeon Keeper and Dungeon Keeper 2 are Bullfrog games. So that's it right there. I forgot Dungeon Keeper was a Bullfrog game.
I did not even know it was. So, all right, I have played a Bullfrog game. All right, so both of us are kind of in agreement on Peter Molyneux. Like, he's a visionary who is...
He's George Lucas.
Yeah, he's the George Lucas of the gaming industry.
Just wait till he sells to Disney.
That would be a pretty good move for him, actually. I mean, I would sell to Disney if I could. If I can market something and sell it to Disney, you better believe I'd sell it to Disney in a heartbeat.
You'd proudly wear those mouse ears.
I would very proudly wear those mouse ears. I mean, I currently very proudly wear the mouse ears. But I would more proudly be paid to wear the mouse ears. This episode of the podcast brought to you by Disney. Anyways.
Remember, vote the mouse a house in the upcoming election.
But, so, I'm really shocked that he made it a year, just over a year, on his media blackout. Yeah. I didn't expect him to make it. I really hope that this is a new, kind of consistent version of Peter Molyneux that we're going to see going forward.
You mean that he's taking his medicine?
Yeah, that he's taking his medicine.
Wait, that's Richard Garriott.
Because I like the idea, like in my head, I like thinking, okay, Peter Molyneux is working on a project where he is, up there being kind of the creative vision, the creative drive behind the project, giving him all these ideas, but he's not the one who gets to say, yes, this idea is in the game, that idea is in the game, and he's also on a leash when he's talking to the media.
What he needs is a PR guy.
Yeah.
He needs to be back at the office, doesn't contact the media. He needs a PR mouthpiece.
Yeah. I think that he's now the PR mouthpiece for the company, but...
Which is dangerous.
But...
Let's be perfectly frank.
But he's not the one who's in charge of the PR. Everybody knows Peter Molyneux, so they're using him to publicize their games, but they've got him on a leash. They've got a muzzle on him. They're saying, okay, here's exactly what you can say. You can put kind of a little Peter Molyneux tone on it. But if you say anything about this, we're going to take away your treats.
They yank back the leash and you're, yup!
But, I mean, I like that vision of Peter Molyneux. I've been impressed with some of his previous work. I've enjoyed everything I've ever played of his. Like I said, despite his flaws, I don't think any of his games have ever been perfect. But just I like him not promising, the world to everybody for every game. I like him not promising that this one is going to be the one that changes everything. I just like him telling us about games that seem pretty good. But
yeah, he definitely needs to be staying on the leash, though. He can't go off of it. At least not till he's well trained. He needs to learn to go on the paper.
Go on the paper first, then scratch on the door to go outside. And then when you go outside, come back. That's the progression we need to see with Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, but remember, if you go beyond the collar, the yard, that collar will shock the shit out of you.
Right. So that's why he comes back. And then he gets to where he doesn't try to leave the yard anymore.
Yeah, but we keep the collar on him just to, make sure.
How long can we keep this really, really interesting metaphor going? I'll
just hope he doesn't get sent to the pound.
I don't really... What's the pound a metaphor for in the gaming industry? Fired?
I guess so.
So, moving on to the second part of that is, how do you feel about Godus and or Godus Wars?
Well, I will say that I have not played Godus personally, or Godus Wars, obviously, because I know better than to trust a Peter Molyneux Kickstarter game / early access game. I mean, let's be perfectly frank here.
Right.
Anyone that knew Peter Molyneux would look at that Kickstarter campaign and go, no. He's George Lucas. This isn't going to work. No. And I was one of those people. I remember back when the Kickstarter was actually happening, people were trying to dissuade the people that were over enthusiastic about. I believe the tone of the Kickstarter was populist, if I recall correctly. Talking about the game will be like populist.
Yeah.
And there were people that were well acquainted with Peter Molyneux's. I really don't want to say disappointment exactly, even though he does have a history of disappointing fans, but overpromising. Yeah. There's not really a good word I could think of that describes Peter Molyneux except George Lucasing.
Right.
Yes, George Lucas has now officially become a verb.
I have played Godus. I've played the mobile version of the game. I don't know how well it compares to the PC version. I can say that the mobile
based
version...
on what based on what I understood, Godus Mobile, Godus PC is basically Godus Mobile only on a PC. They really designed it to be a mobile game.
Well,
and that's something that really pissed off a lot of people.
Well, the mobile game is boring and slow and buggy.
That's pretty much everything I've heard about Godus in general. Yeah, and that's about it.
And Godus Wars, based on what I've seen, I have not played Godus Wars yet, but I have watched some reviews and some Let's Plays of it and stuff like that. And it looks boring and slow and buggy. So I don't really know what they were thinking here. I'm guessing that they were thinking, well, Godus was kind of, nobody liked it. Maybe we can kind of spin off the kind of the war portion, the RTSC war-y portion of Godus into its own game, and maybe people like that more.
I think part of this, I'm going to be very, very cynical on this, but that's my thing, is that they were going to try to get away from the rep of Godus without disconnecting it completely. So Godus Wars has its own Steam page, and you can't get Godus without getting Godus Wars, so they were probably hoping that it would be better received, and it's actually turned out to be worse. It's something like a 22% approval rating on Steam.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, just looking at Godus, or the original Godus, or whatever you want to call it, has 33% of, actually right at 5,500 users. And Godus Wars only has 209 user reviews right now, but 22% of them are positive. That is abysmal.
Yeah.
And I really think part of that was this hope of trying to separate from the overwhelming negative reputation of Godus. And I can't really even say this is a money grab, because they're not selling the games separately. They're selling as a pack. Right.
Which doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're trying to get away from the negative publicity of Godus, then why sell it as a pack?
It's just... there's just so much weird stuff going on. It doesn't make sense any way I could wrap my head around it. Maybe they're trying to make it like... I want to use the H1Z1 news as an example. During the week, they also announced that H1Z1 is splitting into 2 games. Very brief overview of that. That they want to have like 2 development teams working on separate parts of the game, and they didn't want to risk one development team causing a bug that the other development team would have to fix, so that's why they split it.
Right.
But they didn't want to make it a money grab, so they still made it where it's being sold as a pack. But something else that was in the one of the articles that was interesting was that they actually need to sell quite a few copies in this pack now in order to fund the development of both Godus Wars and Godus itself, which is alarming considering the reputation Godus has and Peter Molyneux has. I'm not sure if you caught that in the article. They didn't say it was hundreds of thousands, or they called it tens of thousands of units need to be sold to fund this. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it's something.
No, I missed that. Let me skim back through it and see if I can see it.
I believe it was in the Peter Molyneux article. Yeah, it's in the Peter Molyneux article, just above the the picture Godus Wars development continues alongside the trial. We're talking tens of thousands of sales here, not hundreds of thousands.
Tens of thousands, though, is still a pretty big number.
Yeah, especially with Peter Molyneux's reputation and Godus's reputation. I'm not sure if they'll make that.
I don't think they will.
Which makes the future for Godus really uncertain. And I feel sorry for the poor sap that won the Idea Cube, was it?
Yeah. The guy who tapped into the center and became the god of the game.
Yeah, congratulations, you became a god of a crappy game that you're not going to get much money out of because they sold it for about, 2 years before they put in the revenue sharing portion for you. So, yeah, congratulations on that. Really life-changing.
Best of luck to you.
To be fair, they did talk with him in the Peter Molyneux article. They contacted him, and he's pretty much over it. And honestly, if I was in his position, after being jerked around that long, either I'd be pretty much over it. It's like, whatever at this point, or I would be irate if somebody asked me about it. And I'm not sure which it would be.
Personally, I think I'd be like, meh, screw it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well... Because, I mean, what's he going to do about it, you know? I mean, it sucks. I don't mean that in, like, a bad way, but, like, he can't really do anything. He's at their mercy.
Yeah, and they were pretty careful on how they set it up, where he only gets money when he's the god, and he's supposedly going to be a opponent in Godus Wars, so he still isn't in Godus.
Yeah, he's already in Godus
Wars. Spinoff.
He's one of the gods in Godus Wars, but not in the original.
So maybe that counts, and now he's actually going to get like $5. I hope he didn't spend any money on the Cube game.
Maybe he'll get enough to buy a pack of gum.
Have a cheeseburger and eat your entire godhood.
Buy one beer, drink away his sorrow.
I'm pretty sure he's become old enough to drink at this point, and good thing he doesn't have to deal with this on a daily basis, or otherwise I would have driven him to drink.
Oh, Peter Molyneux, driving people to drink since, I don't know, 1980, whatever.
I just had a thought, and it's a dangerous thought. If Peter Molyneux is the George Lucas of games, when are we going to start seeing recuts of his old games as a re-release?
Any day now, I guess. We're well past time for that to happen, so.
I mean, remasters are definitely a thing.
I wouldn't mind seeing a black and white remaster. I don't want to encourage him too much, but I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Yeah, if they could fix some of the weird things that were in black and white, especially the gesture things, the gesture casting.
Right.
Because it was a little wonky at times. And definitely didn't replace the ability to just, hit a hotkey.
Right.
Even though, I will admit that having the gestures did bring you into the game a bit more, when they worked.
Yeah, kind of one of those little neat little immersion things. It's like, oh, it's working. I'm casting a spell. But then when it doesn't work, it's just like,
I didn't mean to set that village on fire. I was trying to fill up the food stores.
Well, bad things happen to good people sometimes.
Sometimes your god is merciful. Sometimes the god's monkey comes over and poops in the village stores of food.
Sometimes the lightning bolt comes down and strikes it. Anyways, I think that's really all I have to say about it. I just found it interesting that one, that they had done this, and two, that Peter Molyneux had broken his media blackout and actually did a good job talking to the media for once.
Yeah, I will say, if you go to the comment section of these articles, people are rather hostile to him. I mean, granted, I'm not exactly kind to him, but in comparison.
Yeah, but people are always hostile to good old Molyneux.
Yeah.
Next on the list is one that I'm going to be hostile about.
Oh boy, here we go. Should I get the headlamp on so we could go down to the salt mine?
We might. Let me go get my pickaxe. Now, our next news article, or our next discussion topic, is Hearthstone's newest update, their new way to play. So, I like Hearthstone. I play Hearthstone a lot. I've invested a lot of time, a tiny bit of money, mostly time. And as good of a game as it is, particularly from a free-to-play standpoint, it needs a few things fixed. What it doesn't need is weird split game modes and ripping out half of the store. So in the next big update for Hearthstone, let me...
yeah, this is going to be on their a big expansion, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking at this posting here to see when the update is actually scheduled
they
for.
didn't mention a date that I've heard.
Okay, so as far as we know, this is their next big update, probably in the spring, maybe in the summer, because they do one of these really big balancing updates.
Well, they said the spring 2016 expansion will be part of the standard set, so yeah, it's going to be sometime this spring.
Yeah, so probably
next couple of months.
Yeah, next couple of months. What they're doing? Let me talk about the good things first.
They learned how to count past 9.
Yeah, they finally learned how to count past 9. Something that we've been asking for since the game started was more deck slots. You've got 9 heroes, and you've got 9 deck slots. So if you wanted, you could make one deck for every hero, which is what I did for a long time until I kind of figured out which heroes I was best with and that sort of thing. And now I've got multiple decks for the heroes that I'm best with. But I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of cards in this game, and there's new cards that come out all the time. Plus, I wouldn't mind making some decks to practice with some of the heroes that I'm worse with, because there's no... I mean, the game is pretty fairly balanced, and generally there's no hero that's better than another hero, just straight up. It all comes down to play style and how effectively you can use a hero's abilities and the specific hero class cards that they have.
And don't forget which heroes the devs are playing that week.
So, I would like to get better with some of the heroes that I'm pretty bad at, just so that I can enjoy all of the cards in the game. But I'm not going to sacrifice any of my really good decks that I play with all of the time just to practice with a deck that I'm going to do worse with because I'm not as good with a hero. So having more than 9 deck slots is excellent. That's probably the best thing that they did.
Yeah, I really hope they send whatever tutor they found over to Valve so they can work on their counting as well.
How to actually count to 3.
1, 2, 5.
1, 2, 2 1/3, 2 2/3. Because
my theory was that the next game that they release in any of their series should be like Half-Life 1+2.
That would actually be really cute and funny. Or cheeky. I think cheeky would be a better way to describe it. Like, haha. But anyway, so that's the good thing that's coming out of this update. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I think is stupid, but it could go either way. I think I could see an argument being made for it potentially being good for new players, but overall, I think splitting the community is a bad thing. Anyways, they now have new modes of play. What used to be just one mode of play that was split between ranked and then unranked is now called standard. Or no, I'm sorry, not standard. That one is called
Wild.
Wild is what we're used to. All of the cards are up for grabs. You can use any deck that you build and play against someone who's using any deck that they build. No restrictions other than the 30 card limit. And then they're introducing standard mode, which is you can only use the base set and the most recently released set of cards. So
yeah, their rule for it was anything that was released the year that season started. That every time the new expansion's released, they go back and look at all the cards, and anything that's released that year or the previous year will be in the standard set, and then everything else is retired.
Right.
Not counting the basic cards, of course.
Right. So the basic cards, and then basically the most recent set or two. So right now that would be the base set, and then the was it the Grand Tournament?
I have the list right here. For the Year of the Kraken, their first year season thing. Season's not the proper term for it because this is a yearly thing. It's going to be the basic set and classic set, which is the basic class cards, and the classic set, which we're kind of lumping together.
Right.
Blackrock Mountain, the Grand Tournament, the League of Explorers, and the Spring 2016 expansion. You may be noticing that there's no Curse of Naxxramas or Goblins versus Gnomes, because that is not part of the standard set.
Right. So, honestly, Goblins versus Gnomes, all of my best and favorite cards are in there, so it's pretty sad to see that going. But so, you might be saying, well, okay, new players at least, will be on more familiar ground. They'll only have 1 or 2 sets to play with, plus the basic cards. But here's where it really starts to go south for me. And this is the worst part of the whole thing. Every every set that's not a part of their standard set is gone from the store. There's no way to buy those card packs anymore. The only way to get the cards is to craft them with arcane dust. And
they're also removing the adventures if any cards are attached to it.
Right.
So the Curse of Naxxramas adventure, unless you already own it, from what I understood, you won't be able to buy it anymore.
Yeah, it says
either with gold or real life money, which is just absurd to me. They're removing content from the game,
and there's no way to get those cards except from that. You can't actually craft those cards. You have to get them from the adventure.
Until this patch goes live, then you'll be able to craft them with arcane dust.
Right. So, I don't like this for many reasons. Number one, it splits the community. Splitting your community, no matter how big or how small it is always a bad thing. It starts to breed infighting. It starts to breed separation. You get basically 2 communities under the same game who develop rivalries for one another and disdain.
Oh, you play WoW?
Yeah.
Learn to play the game.
Yeah. So, only a lot meaner than that, with a lot more, I had sex with your mother comments. But, so I don't like that, and I don't understand why they're doing this. It's just like they're taking money and throwing it away. Why in the world are they removing the ability to purchase the card packs? If someone comes into the game late, if you come in after this patch, for example, and then that means that you can't get the Goblins versus Gnomes expansion and any of the Naxxramas stuff without crafting it with dust, which, a lot of the kind of standard cards are really good, but if you've played Hearthstone any at all, you know that you don't spend your dust on anything except legendary cards. Because you can get all the rest of them from card packs.
Yeah, trying to play wild for a new player is going to be an exercise in frustration, I'm sure. There's just no way to compete. Already it's very hard for a free-to-play player to keep up. And the only thing I can think of, which to explain why they're splitting the community on like this, is to address the power creep problem that they've been having. Which power creep I should probably go into. It's when in this case, a new card is objectively better than an old card. Let's say you have a 4-mana card that has 3 attack, 3 health. Then the newest expansion comes out, and it has basically the same card, only it's better stats. It's a 4 mana, and it's a 4/4. Or, it's a 5/3 or something like that. It's objectively better.
So I can give you an exact example from the game right off the top of my head.
I couldn't think of
There's
one.
a 3-mana card called, what is it? Something Bear. It's a 3/3 for 3 with taunt. So it has 3 health, 3 attack.
Iron Fur Grizzly?
Iron Fur Grizzly. There you go. It's got 3 health, 3 attack, and then it has taunt, which means that it's got a shield on it, and you have to attack it before you can attack any other minion or your opponent directly. And it costs 3. There's a new card that came out that is Armored Monkey. I think that's his name. And he is a 3-cost mana that is a 4-attack minion with 3 health that also has taunt. So it is an objectively better card for the exact same cost.
And it fills the exact same role.
So why would you use Ironfur Grizzly if you have access to Armored Monkey? I mean, you wouldn't, obviously. And so that's a problem with power creep. And there's quite a few cards that fall into that category. Yeti versus Mechanical Yeti. This is actually an interesting one. The original Yeti is actually better than the Mechanical Yeti. They're both 4/5 for 4. So 4 attack, 5 health for 4 mana. But Mechanical Yeti, whenever he dies, he has a death rattle, and it gives you and your opponent a card. And in my opinion, there might be some argument in that, but in my opinion, it's worse because you don't want to help out your opponent by giving them one of the spare part cards, which are actually all very useful little 1-cost spells. So I agree with you. I think this is them trying to address power creep, but what they should do, instead of splitting their community, is take some time and sit down with some of the big people that play Hearthstone a lot, like some of the streamers, some of their leading community members, and go, okay, what are the worst offenders with power creep, and how do we fix it? And it would take some time for sure, but they could actually make the game a better place instead of just walling off portions of the community from one another.
Yeah, well, I don't think that just talking to the big names would help, because you run into a problem of adjusting for the high-end players while the low-end players aren't accounted for. So it's a more involved process than just like talking to Trump, for example. He's a big Hearthstone guy.
Yeah. I was thinking actually Total Biscuit and
as much as I enjoy Total Biscuit, I would not have him adjusting Hearthstone.
He talks about Hearthstone like every other co-optional podcast a lot. Every time they do one of these big updates. And he's actually pretty on the money for when it comes to what's wrong with the game. I mean, I can think of a few right off the top of my head. Him, Wow Krendor, Jesse Cox. They all 3 play.
Or you just say co-optional.
All right, all the co-optional guys. Boogie. Do you know who Boogie 2988 is?
Yeah, I enjoy his stuff. Most of the time. I don't enjoy his Francis stuff.
Yeah, I don't really like Francis either. But he's talked about Hearthstone in depth a few times. Some problems with it.
Yeah, I would say Boogie's actually probably a better choice just because Boogie has the big Magic the Gathering background as well, so he understands the card mechanics a bit more. You know, the interactions. Granted, he doesn't have as much experience with Hearthstone.
Well,
I do know that he was a big Magic the Gathering player, so yeah. I think he would be he would have the right mindset.
He still plays Magic. He's posted a few videos on his channel. He still plays Magic.
Yeah, he has a lot of Magic content.
So, I mean, there's quite a few people out there in the community, big names, probably some mid-level players. I hesitate to ask new players what they think about the game, just because of a lack of understanding of game mechanics and at least mid-level play. I feel like someone with my skill level would be able to adequately discuss, the problems with the game and the ways to fix them. I consider myself to be kind of a mid to upper mid-level player.
Well, I think
I finished another month in rank 15. Last month, I was rank 15.
Yeah, I think this is more for the general players. You would have to look at just the anonymous data that you collect, because these companies, especially online games like Hearthstone, collect a ton of data points.
Oh, yeah.
They would have an idea of, what class cards are being played, what class cards aren't, and they could look at the class cards that aren't and like, okay, what is wrong with this card? Why is this card getting played over this? And they could also look at the meta game, and which is leaning more towards the high level players, but a lot of the low level players play essentially net decks where they just go online and look at, okay, this guy says that this particular deck list is really good for low level play, or good for this hunter. for example. So you see a lot of the same decks over and over again. So that's actually still part of the meta, even though it's not really the thought process of the low-level players.
I hate net decks. I can spot one so quick. I've seen them a million times. I like to play... I'm going to wander off from this topic just a minute, talk about Hearthstone. I like to play gimmick...
really? We're going to wander?
I like to play gimmick decks. So I'll look at all the cards and be like, I wonder if this would work. And then I'll put together a deck. For example, I have a deck called the Divinest Paladin. And the Divinest Paladin, every single minion I have either has a Divine Shield whenever you play them, or is a card that can give someone else a Divine Shield. And so the whole point is, like, all of my minions, their first, Divine Shield protects your minions from damage one time. It doesn't matter how much damage it is, 1 or 50. It protects them from it for one attack. And so a lot of them have low health, but they have good high attack values for their cost, and then they have Divine Shield. And so you play them, they survive the first attack, and then they do pretty decent damage. And so that's the whole idea behind the gimmick deck. And it actually works fairly well. I've managed to get to like rank 17 that deck. It gets creamed by mages and anything. It does a lot of area of effect damage, but otherwise it's pretty decent. Oh, and then I play, what is it, Sneaky? Is that what I call the deck? The Sneaky one? It's a deck that has all cards with stealth. Like, every minion has stealth.
Which means that you can't attack that creature until it attracts.
Correct. Area of effect stuff.
But AoE can still hit.
Yeah, AoE still gets it, but otherwise, it's pretty effective. The only problem with that deck is there are no stealth minions that can heal, so I have no heals in that deck. So I have to be really careful with how much damage I'm taking. I've got a couple of others. I've got one called Michael Bay.
Explosions?
Every minion does damage whenever you play it on the board. It's a mage deck. And then all of my spells are fire-based.
Well, sorry, but you'll never top Total Biscuit of being Lord of the Gimmicks.
Yeah, that's where I got the idea. I've tried not to steal any of his gimmicks. I'm sure maybe I've copied them.
He did I'm pretty sure he did a deck called Michael Bay that was exactly that.
Yeah, that one was where I got that idea. I have to say I lifted that one directly from him. I thought it was brilliant. But, let's see. And then I've got one other gimmick deck that's really, really powerful. I call it the Beastmaster deck. It's a hunter deck that focuses entirely on the synergy that revolves around beast cards. So all of my spells will directly benefit from having beasts, and then all of my minions are beasts. There's no minions in that deck that are not a beast card. And those decks can kick the crap out of net decks any day of the week. I do it all the time. But they start to run into problems around levels 16 and 17 or 16, whenever you start to get to playing against mid to upper level play with people who design their own decks, because they're gimmicky. If I can't win on the gimmick, then I can't win. And sometimes they get shut down pretty hardcore. But it's fun, that's all part of the game. Anyways, I'm taking a look at the time, and we need to move on to our next topic. Unless you have anything else you want to say about it. I feel like we covered Hearthstone.
Yeah, I haven't played Hearthstone in ages, and this pretty much tells me that, forget about trying to catch up at this point, unless I'm willing to spend even more money than what it would cost now. Because there's just no way to get those cards. You have to get the Arcane Dust, and to make a card out of Arcane Dust, it requires essentially 2 of the other card. So to make a legendary, you have to dust 2 legendaries.
Yeah.
Or 1 golden, which is basically their version of a foil. And it's just telling me, don't bother at this point. I think they're going to be scaring off a lot of new players.
Yeah, I'm a free player, and I'm on the verge of falling behind. Like, I play a lot, and I'm on the verge of falling behind without spending any money on the game.
But I will say that I think just based on the names, and I know I'm probably reading more into this than I need to, just based on the names, the fact that they're calling the mode with the new cards standard tells me that they expect a lot of people to be playing that.
Yeah. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to keep playing Wild. I'm gonna fight till
Well,
the
because
end.
you were born to.
Born to be wild. That's totally
And
gonna
look
get
at the
cut.
viewers. No, it's not. That's going to be the outtake.
Yeah, that'd be a good outtake. Okay, next on our list, this is kind of. I'm gonna read both of these off because you and I were kind of going back and forth on whether or not they should be like cross topics. So the division's console parity, and then broken PC ports are unacceptable. I was saying that.
Well, I think I could answer that last one with. I agree.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
moving on.
No, I was saying that they're two separate issues, and you were saying that they're the same issue. So let's discuss the division first. This past week, there was a alleged developer that was working on the PC version of the division.
Well, I don't think alleged. I think it's pretty much known that he was a developer, but they didn't name the developer.
Okay, I wanted
But
to.
it was a.
That's why I didn't say developer. I was covering my butt a little bit on that one, just saying alleged.
I'll take the bullet if it turns out this guy was very good at BSing. But it sounds like the developer, and I'm gonna just imagine sarcasm quotes around developer anytime I say developer. Okay, this isn't a video podcast, so you can't see me do sarcasm quotes.
But I can picture it in my head, and it looks so sweet.
Oh my!
Anyways,
but the developer was giving a lot of information that if he wasn't in the know, he was basically a close friend of a developer.
Yeah.
So that gives me an idea that either this guy is actually on the development team, even though he remained unnamed for some reason, probably just to cover his butt in case he slipped up.
Right.
Or he was a very close friend of someone that was working on I shouldn't say was working on, is working on this game, and knows enough to be able to BS his way, which would be actually really surprising if he was able to do it that well.
Well, it's been done before. There was the Fallout 4 guy who it was a hoax, but he had everyone going thinking that he was like a developer or a hacker or something. I don't remember all the exact details, but he had like all kinds of really believable information that turned out to be false. But anyways, this Ubisoft developer, he set up a whole bunch of things, but the thing that we're going to focus on is the fact that he said, and I quote...
Yeah, there was basically a paragraph in like the last third of the video.
Anyways, I quote, "We do have to kind of keep it in check with consoles because it would kind of be unfair just to push it so far away from them." So the main point that we're going for here is that, people have been saying for years, and it's been proven a couple of times, for example, with Watch Dogs, that you could get in there and mod in the original PC look that was shown off at E3, and the game looks way better than the console version, which the PC version looked better anyways, but this really showed off how much a strong PC outclasses the consoles. So we've known that this was true, it's just no one has ever said that it's true. And this developer is confirming what we've all known for a long time, that Ubisoft and other developers hold the PC versions back a bit so that they don't look, I don't know, a million times better than the console versions do.
Well, to be fair, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Okay.
In context of this, I do want to go back and read the rest of this quote. I'm pretty sure you're reading off the PC Gamer's
I am, yeah.
Article. Okay. He was the interviewer was asking about the PC port, and this is just before the infamous line. It's definitely a in brackets factory. He skipped over that. But one good thing about the division is that we're always considered a PC as a separate platform. I've worked on projects before where the PC version's a port from the console, so it carries a lot of those limitations over. But we've always been in the mind that we'll have a dedicated PC build, so it hasn't really held it back too much. And then the infamous line, but we do have to keep it in check with the consoles because it would be kind of unfair to push it so far away from them. we don't know what context they're talking about here. We don't know if it's about gameplay, if it's about mechanics, if it's graphics. We don't know where this guy's coming from. We don't know what part of the dev team he is on. And that's an interesting problem with this, where everyone's getting up in arms talking about the graphical gap between consoles and PCs, where it could be not graphics at all. It could be, a limit of how many guns you could carry. It could be a subsystem of the game that they couldn't do on consoles, so they had to drop it on PC. We just don't know.
That is very true. And I'm not disagreeing with that. We have no idea what it is. This is me speculating. I think that the most obvious candidate to be held back on the PC to keep it more in line with the console version is graphics. Aside from a few select genres, most game mechanics carry over very well from keyboard and mouse to controller. Now, you can debate, mostly out of personal preference. There are some objective betters and worses, but mostly out of personal preference, you can debate, which mechanics work better on PC, on a keyboard and mouse, and which one work better on a console, on a controller. But generally, most mechanics carry over well enough that it's all right. So I don't see where anything could come up there. I mean, again, I don't know, so there is a possibility that there could be something. But the obvious choice...
Oh, don't forget... Oh, sorry, I was going to say, don't forget that their closed beta really didn't show off that much of the game. It was a very, very small portion of it, so we don't know everything that's going on here.
Yeah.
So there could be a system later on that, would have been more PC-centric. Didn't they also have at one point be able to control things with tablets, and that's been removed?
Yeah, that's been removed.
So it's possible it could have been something like that.
Possible. I think they stated that the reason that happened is that it just didn't work very well. It just didn't work very well. The tablet player playing with the other players, it just didn't jive.
Okay, I just thought of something. What if it was something to do with like a second screen?
Interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Controlling a drone and being able to see a map on the second screen, that would be a huge game changer for a PC version, and I could see why they would not want that, because there's no way a console would be able to do that.
True. Well,
I mean, sure, you may be able to split screen, but even then, it's not nearly as good.
Right.
I mean, that's just something that came off the top of my head. I haven't really thought about what the system could be, assuming we're not talking about graphics.
Yeah.
Because, once again, we are wildly speculating and really reading into literally a sentence.
Yeah, I had another thought that it might have to do with the AI of the game. While the consoles, in terms of their processing power, don't lag quite as far behind as the PC does, there could be something that has to do with like the number of enemies on screen or some complex kind of game mechanic that's really processor intensive that the consoles can't keep up with. And I think that would fall under gameplay mechanics rather than obviously like visual fidelity or something like that. So that could be a possibility.
But what about the power of the cloud that Microsoft was wanting to harness?
Well,
shouldn't that be able to handle it easily?
They figured out that lassos go right through clouds.
Oh, damn. Foiled again.
I was so excited for that too whenever they announced it. I wasn't.
Well, it does explain why it's not going to be constantly online now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I wasn't really drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but I was really excited that possibility. And then, turns out lassos go right through clouds.
Yeah, so they pulled the line out of the console.
Right. So, personally, I think that it is going to be something that has to do with graphics. I don't know if it's going to be resolution. I don't know if it's going to be like advanced graphical features. I don't know if it's going to be frame rate. Actually, it's definitely going to be frame rate.
They were talking about a frame rate being variable on the console version where you could turn off certain lightning features.
I will believe that when I see it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that for a second.
That would be actually shocking to see on a console version, and that would be something that verifies this if that feature is on the console version.
Yeah.
That's our verifying thing right there. That's our litmus test.
Yeah, but I'm of the mind that I'll believe that when I see it, you know?
What? Your eyes see beyond one frame a minute?
Yes, they do. Very far beyond. I think overall that... Well, I used the word malicious before. We talked about this a little bit in the pre-show. And I was trying to come up with a good word to explain like how I feel about the way that they treat PC gamers, because regardless of what the reason is, in order to keep it more in parity with the console, like no matter what the thing is that they're doing to keep it in parity, I feel like that's diminishing the value of the game and its potential when it's set loose on the power that is the PC. Like they're still reining it in and keeping PC players from getting the full experience of the game. I used the term malicious before. That was.
I think I got a word.
Okay.
Apathy.
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. That's just, I couldn't find that word because I don't feel like they actually have malicious intent towards the PC, except with Uplay. That's definitely malicious intent. But yeah, just general apathy.
That's just negligence.
Yeah. But they just have an apathy towards the PC market. I don't know if they ignore it or if they see it as not their primary focus, which even if that's the case, even if it's their secondary focus, they could still give it a little bit of TLC, and I bet they'd make a crap ton more money than they do. And I mean, let's be frank here. Ubisoft at this point, all they care about is the bottom line. They haven't done anything in years.
Well, they are a major publisher. That's once you get beyond a certain point, your bottom line is really all that matters. That and keeping your investors happy.
Yeah, and they haven't done anything in years that really shows any level of consumer care, corporate responsibility, and just being there for their customers. All they care about is making that money.
I mean, they have done a couple smaller games, haven't they? But to try to think of a good way to put it, try to show a little bit of ingenuity to their games, because Ubisoft tends to have sort of the same formula, especially lately.
Yeah, they did. What was the game that was all in rhyme and you were like a princess?
I'm looking at their games list now. Maybe a Child of Light.
Child of Light, that's it. They did Child of Light, and what was the World War I game that they did?
That was Valiant Hearts, if I recall correctly.
Valiant Hearts. Those are the only two that come to mind. But to be honest, I mean, they were good games. I've played both of them. They were good, but I always felt like those games were PR. Like, oh, we're a horrible company, but look, we can make really nice indie games and, help these developers out.
Well, they also... a game that I recently played was Grow Home. They did that, and that was a very indie-feeling game.
Right. Forgot about Grow Home. I personally feel like those games are more like PR stunts. I mean, that could be the cynic in me.
No, I agree with you, which definitely means it's the cynic in you.
But, I mean, they have, their reputation is up there with EA's in terms of, I don't believe that you do anything without ulterior motives.
Don't believe his lies.
Nice callback. But so that led us into another discussion, which is about specifically Tales of Symphonia. Oh.
Yeah, which this one was really disappointing for me because I didn't play the game when it originally came out on GameCube. So when I saw it was coming out on Steam, it's like, oh, this looks interesting. Add it to the wish list. And then it releases, and it is a hot mess.
Okay, let me see if I can get this right from memory. Tales of Symphonia is a port of the PS3 version of a port of the PS2 version of a port of the GameCube version.
I believe that's correct. I know it's at least 2 ports away, maybe 3.
And every version you think that they would get better. Maybe not, the PS2 to the GameCube version would be pretty similar, and they were. I've played the PS2 version. I've seen the GameCube version. The PS2 version was slightly worse than the GameCube version. I think it suffered the most from just kind of optimization issues. But then it came to PS3, and you think, okay, we're up, more powerful hardware. At the very least, we can just emulate the GameCube version. But the PS3 version was worse than the PS2 version. And then the Steam version is worse than the PS3 version.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. It's like they're copying VHS tapes and they keep making copies of copies.
Yeah, so it's locked at 720p, but it doesn't actually run at 720p. It runs at what did I read? 680 something p, and then it upscales it to 720. But
yeah, and you can't adjust it without this guy hacking the game.
Yeah, Durante.
Yeah, which he did it in less than 3 hours of release, by the way.
Yeah, and he said it only took him 14 minutes to do. So now, the point where we came down to, where you were like, that this is the same thing, and I said, no, it was different, is that I said that Ubisoft was malicious, like their intent was malicious, like deliberate, which, as we just discussed, malicious is the wrong word, but Ubisoft is doing it deliberately. I felt like that this was done either out of incompetence or laziness.
Yeah, which comes my counterpoint was, I think Ubisoft is being apathetic. And this is the same thing.
Right. Now that you've made that counterpoint, I agree that they're a little bit more similar. I still think they're two separate things, but they're more in line with one another than I originally was giving them credit for.
Well, thank you.
Well, you proved your point with logic and reasoning.
Yeah, the guy with range's name is the one using logic.
Yeah, but we're called Video Game Logic. Anyways, so I don't really care about game that we were just talking about. Crap.
Tales of Symphonia.
Tales of Symphonia. There's another one for the outtakes. I don't really care at this point about Tales of Symphonia as the game. I played it years ago. It was all right, but it didn't really stick with me. It was just an okay game to play at the time. What I do care about is companies doing this over and over and over again. The article that we're getting all of this from
is a PC Gamer
article. And it brings up some good points. So, first of all, developers treat games that release like this on PC like quick cash grabs. Tales of Symphonia very obviously is a cash grab. They didn't put any work into it. They just ported it over, doing the minimal required to make it work on the PC, which at this point I don't think is very much. I mean, it's originally a GameCube game that's been ported a whole bunch of times. They probably just fixed a couple of things that prevented the game from actually starting. Maybe. It still had issues with running properly, so...
according to some reports, there were typos in the translation.
Yeah, so maybe they put a couple of minutes work into it. Like, some guy in the office was like, hey, it works on my PC. And they were like, okay, put it on Steam.
No, they had the intern run it on his PC.
Yeah, it works.
That was their QA process.
Works on my PC, guys. It looks weird, but it runs. All right, sell it.
Ish.
But one of the points that was made in the article that was like, well, if developers take time to make their games work on PC, they can have a really good second life on PC that lasts a long time. The one that they used, for example, in the article was Valkyria Chronicles, which is a game that I missed because I did on PS3, but I had been wanting to play for years, and it came to Steam last year, perhaps 2 years ago, but I bought it, and I have enjoyed it since then. I mean, it's a great game, and it's a good PC port that they put time and effort into making sure.
And It was a small team that did it.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-man team that did
Yeah,
it.
according to this article, it was a 3-man team that did the porting.
So, I mean, it got a sale from me, and it's a great PC port of a great game. And there have been other examples of this, and there's tons of examples of PC games having a long tail. I mean, we've talked about Skyrim time and time again, but I mean, Skyrim still sells copies, and it's 5 years old at this point. So if developers take the time and the effort to make a competent game or a competent port, PC gamers will buy it for a long time. But, companies just doing these quick cash grabs that they don't care about. It just, honestly, it makes me sick. Like, it really makes me sick to think that companies will do that. And I don't that might sound a little extreme. I don't have this idealistic image in my head of what the market should be like what games industry should be like, but
yeah, but we do know that you've gotten sick quite a bit lately.
Yeah. I just want people to be more decent than that. People make up companies, and it's people that ultimately make these decisions, and I just want people to be better than that. And they're not.
Yeah, but they're also really setting themselves up for failure with this problem, in that they push out this crappy port. We'll use Tales of Symphonia just because it's readily available. Example. Okay, Dev puts out Tales of Symphonia, puts minimal effort into it, puts a couple interns to maybe QA it. It runs. Okay, let's go. And it sells abysmally, and it gets panned across the board on PC. They're not going to bother putting in the effort on the next one because they saw, okay, it sold poorly. Let's not put in the, let's not waste a bunch of money polishing the port because the previous one didn't do all that well. The previous game just sold poorly. So, or assuming that they even bother porting another game,
On top of that, I'm willing to bet that they would blame the gamers. Like, oh, you didn't buy our game, so we're not going to put another one out for you on PC.
Damn pirates.
Yeah. And we're going to retort and go, well, you put a shit game on PC, so we're not going to buy it. But the thing is that we don't have the power to produce a better game and put it out. I mean, I love members of the community like Durante who do this for games. He's done it for Dark Souls. He's done it for this. And I know of a couple others that he's done. I bet he's done a lot of games that I don't know about. It would be so easy for companies to contract him to do this for them. It's like, hey, we want to put this game on PC. Here's our initial port. Go through it and see what we missed.
Yeah, but here's the problem is that requires a little thing called money, and a lot of these developers are public. I'm not willing to say it's 100% the developer's fault. I'm going to put this at the feet at the publishers, assuming that there is a publisher in this, and I didn't really go back and double check that. But I would want to say that it's not the developers; it's the people behind the scenes. It's the suits. They see the deadlines. They see the investors. It comes down to the investors again.
All right, suits. All of you up in the game dev world that are listening to me, I know there's millions of you out there. We've got 30 subscribers now, so that's all of the big companies, right? Okay? Listen to me. Durante fixed this game in 14 minutes. 14 minutes. He fixed everything that was wrong with the PC port of... I'm going to cut out the silence there as I go look it up because I'm suddenly drawing another blank. What's that problem?
Dark Souls?
Yeah, Dark Souls. The PC port of Dark Souls...
You said Dark Souls earlier.
I did say Dark Souls earlier. He fixed the PC port of Dark Souls in less than a day. Okay? Now, after he fixed the game, it sold better because people could go buy it and make it work. But you want a little secret? If you release the game working properly the first time, you avoid the negative press, you don't look bad because someone fixed your game in less than a day, and you make more money. So why don't you just contact him, pay him for you what's nothing, probably few $1,000s worth of contract work. Have him fix it, and then make it all back and then some when you sell a properly released game. How about that? I don't think you're actually going to listen to me, but you should, because I know what I'm talking about.
It's just the publishers, the suits being very, very short-sighted. They see games as money. They see gamers as money. They see us as walking wallets. And this is probably part of the reason why I love my indie gaming so much, is that they don't have the passion. They don't have the passion that a guy in his garage coding for 4 years on this random game would have for their product. And I think that's really coming out. And just all these broken releases from these major titles, from, let's go the last 2 years, just all the broken titles. Not even just PC titles. Not just PC ports. I'm talking about just games in general.
Yeah.
Just how broken things have been. And the reliance on the community to fix things. To fix it post-launch. To, we got a million pre-orders. We don't need to bother with a 100% working game on launch. And it scares me, the future of gaming, when the major publishers, the major developers will just, not care. They'll just push out a game in any state that it could be in. And it makes me wonder what happens when the average gamer, because let's be perfectly frank, me and you, we're enthusiasts.
Oh yeah,
we look at gaming news.
Absolutely.
The average gamer, and I'm talking about the real average gamer, not the hypothetical, 30-something plays games a ton. I'm talking about just a random person that plays games, may or may not read up on them at all. What happens when they lose trust? What happens when the next Battlefront comes out and they got burned on the last one, so they skip it? What happens when that happens? Gaming is going to be in trouble. The major publishers are going to be in trouble if they continue this. And we need to change the course. I'm not going to go the boogie route and say that the bubble will burst, because I think gaming has gotten to the point. I don't want to say too big to fail, because that has some really bad connotations.
Right.
But I will say that gaming is too popular to go away completely like it did in the early 80s. There was a time, basically, the ET Atari cartridge was sort of like the trigger for a huge downturn for the good half a decade of gaming.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think we're at the point where there'll be something like that again. But I do think that there will be a downturn if this continues. And it will hurt EA, it will hurt Ubisoft big time. It will other major developers. I think Blizzard and Valve are in a good position where it won't hurt them as badly, especially Valve, since they're more of a distribution platform than anything. And indie games and older games, especially on PC, really keep them aloft. So I think they're okay. But oh damn, I sound so alarmist, don't I?
I think you sound like someone who knows, who understands what's going on and the potential for what could happen. I like to call that extreme realist. You're not willing, or you're not afraid to face the potential hard truth. I agree with you. I think that was well said. I don't think that we will see another 1980s video game crash, but we could see a decline if corporate gaming continues to drive consumers away for really shoddy business practices. people losing faith. Like you said, the average gamer, the person who picks up, probably a few games a year, doesn't read much news, might check a score occasionally, plays in their spare time with their friends.
Here's about a Star Wars game. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. Pre-orders it, gets it day of to play with some friends.
Yeah. That's your average gamer. And when those people, because honestly, they're the ones who keep the gaming industry going. I mean, me and you, we spend more money on games than we probably should, and more money on equipment than we probably should. Mm-hmm. But we make up overall a small percentage of the actual people who game. And so in the grand scheme of things...
The enthusiast market is no longer the core demographic of gaming.
Yeah. And I mean, the market still exists, but we don't drive the industry anymore. At least not as much. Maybe a little bit, but in terms of like technology development and certain industry trends. But in general, we have a lot less market share than we used to.
Yeah. Where the enthusiasts lie is really the voice. We are the vocal minority.
Right. Well, on that somewhat sobering note...
I hate being so alarmist, but it's the honest truth.
Indeed. And I do agree with you. I'm not trying to shut you up, but I am in charge of keeping time, and I see we just rolled over the 2-hour mark, so...
Well, sure, I still had 10 seconds left. Of course, who knows where that lies with editing.
Yeah. We'll see. On the recording timer, though, we're at just past 2 hours. So that means it's time for... Oh, now you're laughing. Screw it. I'm going ahead with it. So that means it's time for this week's community report. There's my little sound effect that I should copy and use that every time now. You're stuck with it forever.
Until I get bored again and I make something.
Right. So this week we had 3 letters, although one of them we addressed in the very opening of the show, which was from Seth, who basically said he enjoyed us, but it was difficult to stick with us for a longer than 3-hour podcast. So hopefully this one works out to be about 3 hours.
We completely agree.
Yeah, we agree. We were discussing in our short break that we just took how that we timed it perfectly to hit 2 hours after our first 2 sections. Almost like we were professionals.
But not quite, because we're talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't resist. It's kind of like calling out whenever there's a good segue. I love to do that, but then that kind of ruins the segue. So we will just get away from that one. We do appreciate the feedback, Seth, and anyone else who listens that wants to give us feedback, we are always open to receiving it. If it agrees with our vision of the show or is something that we feel like we can improve on, we will gladly take your feedback. Although if your feedback is like, you guys suck, that's not exactly very constructive. I mean, honestly, what do we suck?
I'm sure you have a few suggestions.
Maybe.
Oh,
So our second letter comes to us from not Chris, again.
Chemist.
This one is a long one, which is mostly directly addressed to us and our confusion of how physics and frame rate are tied together. It's a very thorough, in-depth description. And what we're going to...
And it gave me a little bit of a headache, and I knew some of these words.
You knew some of the words. So we really do appreciate the info, Chemist. I've read it 2 times now, and I think I might finally understand it well enough.
Yeah, I think it also comes down to me using the word physics when I probably should have used time frame or cycles.
Right.
Basically how some games, when they're played at a higher frame rate, act like an old DOS game that didn't have a timing portion to the program because all CPUs ran at either exactly the same hertz or close enough that it didn't really matter. But when better processors came out, you started getting games running at double or triple speed because there was a lot better processor in the computer, and it didn't account for that.
Right.
And also the reason why there was such a thing as a turbo button on very, very old computers.
I always felt so legit pushing the turbo button on my old PC, like my really
you
really
do know
old
that
PC.
was slowing you down, right?
Yeah, well, I do now, but I was a kid. I was like, yeah, turbo power.
Yeah, the Lazy Game Reviewer actually had a really, I think it was him that had a very in-depth video about the turbo button. I love his content. I'm not sure if you would watch it.
I've actually never heard of him. The Lazy Game Reviewer?
Yeah, Lazy Game Reviews, I think is the proper title of it. He does a lot of Sim stuff as well. You know, every time there's a stuff pack for the Sims that comes out, he does a review on it. But he does a lot of retro reviews and a lot of retro content. Matter of fact, he's on Twitter. He's been posting about this old Hot Wheels PC that he got and a Barbie PC that was meant for, like, you know, grade schoolers.
Interesting.
And he's going to do a video on it before too long and how hilariously crap they are.
Okay. Yeah, let me look. I'll look him up on YouTube right now. The Lazy Gamer.
Should be Lazy Game Reviews, if I recall correctly.
Lazy Game Reviews. 673 videos. It's a picture of a really old PC for his.
I'm going back to double check. Yeah, that's him.
All right.
He does modern stuff as well, but I really enjoy his older stuff. You can see if you go to the videos, the Hot Wheels computer acquired.
Yeah, I see that.
And like weird 90s computers and that sort of thing.
Oh my gosh, I actually remember the Hot Wheels computer from when I was a kid.
Now that you see it?
Now that I see it, I'm like, I remember that. I'm pretty sure I saw commercials for it on TV. Oh, man. I know I'm not old, but that's one of the things that like makes me feel old.
Tech makes you feel very old very quickly.
Yes, it does. We have strayed very far from Kimis's letter, though.
Yes, we have.
So that's the gist of it. What we're going to do, if you're interested in learning a little bit more in depth about frame rate and physics and the proper terms and ways to describe this, we're going to do what we did last week with Supe's letter. We are going to remove any identifying information from it, which I don't think there was anything identifying in it, but just, to double check. And then we will post it and post a link to it in the description for the episode. So if you really want to go through and read the whole thing, you are more than welcome to.
Oh, and I was right about Lazy Game Reviews. He is the one that did the turbo button.
Okay.
So I may link that in as well.
Go right ahead. You're the one who now is in charge of the notes, so.
Yeah, and I think they look a lot better now.
They do. They genuinely do.
If you don't mind me patting myself on the back a little bit.
You deserve it. I mean, I am a busy man outside of this, and I am the one who actually edits the audio version, the audio for the podcast, which is a pretty big job. And when we started, I was doing all of it except for the art. You did our art. And you started...
This will be because I get bored.
Yeah. But you've been taking on more and more things, and about the only thing I do now is the audio.
You still edit.
I edit it and then upload it and then post the link into the post so that it works properly with our feed. And then you do the rest. So I'm giving you a virtual pat on the back. I'm actually patting my computer monitor right now. I would pat the mic, but that would sound awful.
And we're going to hear it crash in about 3 seconds.
Oh no, I knocked my shelf off the wall. I would pat the mic, but it would just sound awful, so. Pat. There you go.
Oh my. You're patting me there? On mic?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I just closed. That was silly of me. I closed Gmail. Instead of just closing the email, I closed my Gmail tab. Whoops. That's okay. I can just open the tab back up.
The outtakes are going to have a lot of options this time.
Nah, I'm leaving that one in. Everybody needs to hear that one. Okay. So, our third and final letter comes to us once again from Blug. Do you want to read it? You want me to read it?
Well, since we don't have anything else, I say we split this one, even though it is fairly short.
Okay. I'll read the first paragraph. It says, "Hi to both of you. Yes, it's me again. I wanted to add my
Sorry.
I wanted to add my 2 cents into the refund policy. In the part of Canada where I live, it's usually not possible to get a refund on a game after you've played it, unless it's a physical problem, and even then, it's not a refund, but an exchange for the same game. So, I'm pleased to see a refund policy on Steam. It's way better than what I've ever had. I'll agree that 2 hours is a little short for some games. A good solution would be to force the publisher to display a normal gameplay time, like 40 to 50 hours, and plan the refund time according to that. So small games would have a really small amount of time to refund, and huge games with 3 hour starting cinematics would have a longer delay. I'll read this little part too. Now let's...
I wanted to throw in on that.
Okay, go ahead.
The problem with this is that how do you measure game time? Are we just talking like the main story and no sides? I'm going to use an RPG example for this just because it's the first thing that jumped out in my head. Think of like Skyrim, since that is the latest Elder Scrolls game, at least for now. Who knows? I shouldn't say when Bethesda does another one.
E3 2016. That's my prediction. I'm getting it out there early. New Elder Scrolls. Anyways.
It wouldn't shock me. Skyrim, if you focus on the main story, and only the main story, and without any mods or anything, 6 hours, I think, is being very conservative on the amount of time to complete. Probably closer to 4. And I'm talking about focus main story, do nothing else.
I don't know. I would argue with you a little bit on that one. I'd say closer to 10 hours. If you're just doing the main story and not anything else. Because you have to remember that the Elder Scrolls games, they do level to you, but there are certain things that are still leveled above you.
Yeah, true.
And it would be very difficult to beat some of the enemies in the game without being leveled properly. I mean, you could still do it.
Very, very, very true. But
so I'm thinking closer to 10 hours.
But this does illustrate my problem. Even here is, where do you put the cutoff? These games talk about hundreds of hours of gameplay, but that's including all the side quests, all the, going to hunt Easter eggs, that sort of thing. So where would you have that cutoff where they say, okay, this is the game, this is the number of hours that you could expect? And honestly, I think developers and publishers would try to fudge that as much as they could.
Yeah. Honestly, if it has to do with the refund time, I think they would fudge it down rather than up.
Oh, definitely.
Right now there's
if it's based on the refund time, they would definitely try to fudge it down as low as they could.
Yeah, right now
if it's a certain percentage of the refund time.
Yeah. Right now you see devs fudging it up. Like, oh yes, you could get hundreds of hours of gameplay from our game. And it's like, well, yeah, if I do absolutely everything or fall completely in love with this world, sure, I could spend a couple hundred hours in it. But I'm probably not. I just don't have the time anymore. I mean, I've put 40 hours into Skyrim on Steam. I had it on 360 before I bought it on Steam, but let's just use Steam as my example. I don't want to say I'm done with that game, but when I played through on console, I beat the main story, and I beat several of the side quests, several of the guilds and a couple other things. And on this playthrough, basically, I've just spent my entire time just screwing around with all the stuff I ignored when I played it on console. And I don't want to say I've done everything there is to do in Skyrim. That's pretty hard to do, but I've kind of had my fill. And I didn't get hundreds and hundreds of hours between my 2 times in Skyrim. I've probably got 100 hours total out of the game, which is still a lot. I'm not trying to downplay the amount of time I played it, but it's like, most people say you could get a couple hundred hours out of Skyrim, and it's like, well, if I had the time or if I loved the game more than I do, sure, but that's not an accurate representation of my time in the game.
But you also have to try to counterbalance this because the developers wouldn't want to fudge it down too low as well, so maybe there would be some sort of natural balancing act, but it's a tricky thing to really consider.
Yeah. I actually like your idea for that a lot because it makes it more individual per games, which means that short games are less likely to get screwed over, and it's much more difficult for devs to fool you for the first few hours into thinking that your experience is great. But it would be extremely difficult to implement because, like we're saying, devs are going to try and fudge it as much as they possibly can. The only way to truly make this system work is if you have playtesters play every game to completion to come up with a relatively accurate time. And that is very expensive and time consuming, and I don't see anybody willing to do that.
Yeah, Valve wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe if... No. There's a third-party site called How Long to Beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if they based it off that, but that's so finicky as well because that's a lot of that is speedrunning as well.
Yeah, a lot of speedrunners.
Staying in the Elder Scrolls world, going back to Morrowind, the world record for beating Morrowind. Do you know this offhand?
Not a clue.
I looked into this.
It's really short though, because you can essentially beat the entire game right off the boat.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that it's 12 minutes.
3.
That's really fast.
Yeah. So that also, even though speed running like that is obviously the outlier, and not many people are able to do that just because of the time commitment. A matter of fact, doing a speed run that effectively and be able to do it consistently to get the world record, because there's a lot of nuance. One of the things I love watching in the winter and summer is a stream called Awesome Games Done Quick, where it just showcases all these speedrunners doing these absolutely absurd things and beating games in just ludicrous times. And the practice it requires to be able to beat Morrowind in 3 minutes is just more than I think 99% of players are willing to put in. But it does offset that time. So even a third-party site like How Long to Beat wouldn't be a good barometer for a possible refund policy. I'm not convinced that there is a good answer here just because of the time commitment and just how many games are coming out on Steam on a daily basis.
Yeah. According to this, EVE Online doesn't have a completion time.
Actually, they're accurate.
They're very accurate. But I was just poking around while you were talking. Elite Dangerous, same concept as EVE Online, just on a smaller scale. It has a completion time. 100 hours. There's no story in Elite Dangerous.
No, that's just when you get bored.
Oh. So does that mean that nobody ever gets bored of EVE?
Oh no, Jared. Do they?
So far, no. All right, carrying on with B-Lug's letter.
Yeah, I probably did cut you off a little bit early on that.
Well, I was just going to read the next little sentence, and I was going to let you read the end of it.
While reading the next bit.
Now let's suppose a publisher lies in his description to have a lower refund time. Oh, what we were literally just talking about. Would you pay $60 for a game that has a gameplay time of 1 to 2 hours? And in reverse, if it's advertised as 80 hours of gameplay and it ends in 4, you just get a refund. And we hope that Steam would tap their hands for lying on this. What Steam would tap? Oh, I'm guessing smack him on the hand. Yeah. Praise Lord Gabe. Okay, not that much, but at least let's thank him for his huge push towards Linux and the port of almost all Valve games library.
Well, the problem was that Valve has been very, very lenient on game developers and publishers. Just I keep using the term publishers and developers interchangeably, and when referring to them, and it's usually the publishers in this case. They are very, very lenient on publishers just getting away with murder. It was for Arkham Knight, for example. It was Warner Brothers that pulled it down, not Valve. Valve has very rarely pulled a game from the store.
Yeah.
When was the last time they did it? The War Z?
I think so. Yeah.
And that was just because the game was so broken. Of course, this was before the refund policy. But yeah, Valve has a very, I don't want to say anti-consumer, but very pro-publisher, pro-developer stance when it comes to how they handle games on Steam.
Yeah.
Which I do understand why they do it. That they have to keep themselves open for as many people to come into their basically playground as possible.
I would say their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can finish it off, the letter.
Okay, finally, I'm glad that Supe mentioned. I love his name. Mentioned his Linux gaming passion. Since I'm also a Linux gamer, a Linux exclusive gamer. Oh yeah, 64-bit KSP. Hate you, hate. But if rumors true, not for long. Yeah, I cheat from time to time, but it's been years since I've had Windows installed on my PC. I'll agree with him that those about those game. Sorry, there's a tense change there. That are ported to OS X and not to Linux. The worst is done. The most difficult part of porting a game to Linux is DirectX. When you've compared it to OpenGL and fixed your shaders to fit this, the rest is usually there. I'd really want to know what is an active user base of Steam Linux. This would give a good idea of the reality of Linux gaming. For more news on Linux gaming, I suggest to your listeners gamingonlinux.com. It's a good source of Linux game releases. See you next Friday. Blug. P.S. I'll try Dark One soon since it'll run well on WAN. PSS. I'll try not to send a letter every podcast unless you don't care.
We want you to send a letter every podcast.
Yeah, keep the crickets away.
Yeah, we don't want the crickets to come back.
And I'll add that to the show notes. The link to Gaming on Linux, just in case me butchering the URL keeps you away from it.
No, Firewatch. I just opened the site. That's the top one on the list, or I guess the newest one. I've seen a few interesting things about that game.
Yeah, Valve has really pushed Linux gaming quite a bit, especially since the Steam Link and the Steam OS are Linux boxes, essentially.
Yeah. I almost said something really stupid, and I'm going to go ahead and say it just so that you see what my mind just did, but I think that this is a stupid thing to say. I thought for a second, I'm glad that Linux exists because it's kind of like having the 3 console market. You've got the 3 PC market with Windows, Mac, I should say Mac OS, and Linux. But then I thought, nope, that's really stupid because that's not comparing the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of apples to bananas.
Yeah. So I had that thought briefly, but then I decided it was dumb. But for the sake of openness on the podcast, I did have that thought briefly.
Well, it's also more just because there's no exclusivity deal whenever you make a game for Windows.
Yeah.
You're not tied to Windows.
Yeah.
It's more just porting issues to OS X and Linux.
Right. Also, I really hope you like Darkstar 1. It does take a little bit getting used to. What's the right way to say it? The gameplay is not as crisp or as smooth as Freelancer. But once you get used to it, it's a competent, fun space game. So I'm glad you're trying one of my suggestions. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say on this letter. Would you like to move on to our Steam recommendation of the week?
Yeah, sounds good, because that's going to be a very short one.
Yeah, so from out of nowhere, Steam had a sale. What did they call it? The
lunar sale.
Lunar sale.
Because of the Lunar Year.
So, it doesn't look like a lot of the deals are as good as their big, the summer winter sale, but there's still some pretty good deals. And the kind of discovery queue thing they're doing is like a choose your own adventure, which is kind of neat. And you just pick one, and then it shows you game deals based on your answer. But they did still have weekly deals because this sale ends on Friday, and I think it's Friday, and the weekly deals will go all the way till next Monday. Although, because this big sale is here, the weekly deals were pretty anemic.
Oh, yeah.
Normally we do 2 picks a piece. This week we each only did 1 because we weren't familiar with enough of the games to recommend them or not. So do you want to go first?
Yeah. You tried to pick what I picked out quite a bit in the pre-show, and you weren't able to do it, which actually shocked me.
Well, I mean, you have an extremely diverse taste in games. And so I took 3 guesses at it. I picked 3 games that I thought that you would have picked, and they were all wrong. So...
Yeah, 3 guesses out of, I think it was 34, 35 titles. Now, granted, it's not nearly as long as it's that, because you can narrow that down based on what you know of me. And that I would usually pick in something like this a fairly decent game.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you do have varying tastes, and I really didn't know very much about a lot of the games that are on the weekly sale this week, still made it pretty difficult for me to choose.
Yeah, which for the theme of this game, and yes, I'm still teasing it.
Oh my gosh!
just to tease the shrink a little bit more is very appropriate because it is, "Sir, you are being hunted."
Okay, well, that's one of the ones that was on on the Steam list that didn't show up on the Steam DB where I pull all of my sale data from.
And this is why I go to the actual store instead of going to a third-party site.
Yeah, it let me down this week. I just love how much information is aggregated on this site, though. Okay, yes. I'm familiar with Sir, You're Being Hunted.
Yeah, that's why I was a little, actually more than a little shocked that you weren't able to pull it out.
I still probably would have guessed a couple of the games on my list, but Sir, You're Being Hunted would have been one that I would have guessed.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Sir, You're Being Hunted is basically the most dangerous game, only you're the most dangerous game, and you're being hunted by Victorian steampunk robots.
And for those of you who don't know what the most dangerous game is, how did you graduate high school? I guess if you're not in the United States, I don't know what your education system is like, but if you're in the United States, how did you get through high school without knowing what that is?
Yeah, here's a hint. It's people. It's also Soylent Green.
It's also what?
Soylent Green. People.
Oh.
Just that utter silence.
Okay, so why do you recommend this game?
I will say that for its full price, it's not worth it. It's a little bit bare bones. It's a first-person stealth survival game. Not quite the survival game that you would expect from titles like Don't Starve, where you're not having to manage bars. As far as I can tell, this is a title that I haven't played myself. I have watched a fair amount on those, so I may be mistaken on that, and it could have been added in an update. But you are trying to escape from this archipelago while being hunted by robots, by hot air balloons, that sort of thing. And it's a little bit bare bones for the $20 asking price. Just that if the core gameplay is there, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough meat on the bones, if that makes any sense. The enemy variety is not quite there, and it feels like it needs a little bit more survival elements to justify the full price.
Okay.
But right now it's 80% off. Bring it down to $3.99, and I think it's well worth that. I don't think it's a game that you'll sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into. But it's well worth that price.
Okay.
And it has multiplayer if you really want to go escape with a friend.
I would rather hunt my friend down. That sounds more fun to me.
Well, if I recall correctly, I could be mistaken on this, in that if you're able to get all the magical MacGuffins to be able to escape the island, they may have changed this from last I heard. But only one person could escape.
Ah.
They may have changed that, or it may have just been something I misheard. But it would be hilarious.
Yes, it would. Bye, Rage. Have fun with the crazy robots.
Well, let's just put it this way. The tagline of this is Stealth and Survival with Tea and Biscuits.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I've heard of that game before. I've never played it, but I would check it out. So the game that I picked was, do you remember the games I listed? Because I said it was one of the ones that I guessed yours.
To be honest, it's been 2.5 hours now.
Right. So the game that I picked was Legendary. I received Legendary as a gift many, many, many moons ago. It was one of the very first games that I ever had on Steam. And as such, I've played it a couple of times. It's a fairly competent first-person shooter with, I would call it science fantasy. The general gist of the game is that Pandora's box has been opened in the modern era, and all these mythical creatures and like demons and things have been released onto the world, and it's your job to put a stop to it, kill them all, and close Pandora's box.
I hope you close it after Hope escapes, though. Because isn't that the myth is that she closed it before Hope escapes?
Yes.
Because that was in the very bottom of the box.
Yeah, and it released all of the despair onto the world, but not hope to go with it. But it's a pretty good game. It is dated. You can tell that in the graphics and the art style, but it runs fairly well. It runs at modern resolutions with no problem. And it's less than $1. It currently is, I want to say
95 cents.
Yeah, 95 cents. So if you're looking for a decent FPS with some interesting themes to it and quite a bit of diversity, honestly. I mean, you get, modern day cities and then mythical landscapes and settings and, magic and guns. If you're looking for a competent shooter that's got a wide variety of things to do and see, Legendary is your game. And that was my recommendation for this week. Like we said, no 2 because the sale was anemic. But
yeah, and unfortunately, the lunar sale happens right in between the episodes.
Right. So hopefully you found it and maybe bought some games off your wish list or something if you were looking for some new games.
Which I do hope that they keep around the whole idea of the Discovery Cube being this grand adventure.
Yeah.
Because that was really cool.
That is really cool.
And after being forced to use the Discovery Cube in the winter sale to get the cards, they need an overhaul of that because I saw so many damn Minecraft clones. Minecraft clones, games that use Unity assets.
Well,
platformers.
I like Minecraft clones, but
platformers with Unity assets. Sorry.
I don't like platformers very much. Unity assets get old. Although I don't have a big problem with them as long as they're used, I think I would say properly. As part of a whole art style. Like, someone who's actually coded a unique game, but they are not an artist, so they use the Unity assets in a matching art style.
Yeah, basically the RPG Maker style where you use the base tiles, but you use them in an interesting way.
Right. RPG Maker games for me are all about the story. Like, if they tell a really good story, I'm on board. I'm all in. But if they tell a really crappy story, I'm like, oh, look, it's another RPG Maker game. But I digress.
Hey, you're stealing Kerbal-Cast thing now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a phrase. They didn't trademark it.
Yeah, but it's their lifestyle.
Yes, it is. And it's also our lifestyle because Biff is our podfather.
Oh, podfather.
This brings us, though, to the very last portion of the show. Well, the second to last, where we plug our own stuff. Rage, what are you going to be up to this week on the YouTubes and the social medias and the whatnots?
Well, the social medias, I'm going to be poking around as usual, causing trouble, being snarky to some people.
As you do.
And on my YouTube channel, I mentioned in the very beginning of the show, quite a while back, that I started a new series on my channel, SteamWorld Dig. The second episode should be live by the time this comes out. It's a mining, platforming, Metroidvania game.
Okay.
It's an interesting one. I talked about it quite a bit before, so I won't go too much into it again. Just reminding people.
Right.
And I still have my 2 other active series out. I have Darksiders, which I just beat the first boss, really the first dungeon, which took me quite a while to get through the dungeon. It actually surprised me at just how long it took. It took me something on the order of like 3 or 4 episodes to go through the entire dungeon. Granted, if I knew what I was doing, I could probably have cut that down by an episode, but even then, that's quite the ordeal. There was some oddities about it, though, where it really requires you to pay attention to details. I walked past this statue like 2 or 3 times, and to progress in the dungeon, I had to grab a hold of it and shove it off the ledge.
Okay.
And the reason why I didn't catch on that I needed to do that was that further along that balcony that I was on with the statue, I came to this grand ballroom that it looked like across the way there was a grabbable surface because it was using a similar texture. And I'm wanting to say, that's gameplay design and not me just, being stupid.
Right. Hopefully it's not, but let's be honest, Rage.
Yeah. Gee, thanks.
That was mean.
Yes, it was.
I'm sorry if I hurt your feel-goods.
It's all right, Shrinky Winky.
I am not bothered by that one bit. I find it rather endearing.
And, of course, the other series is, as always, Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, which is still very episodic. And the next couple episodes are me playing poorly, which is hardly a change of pace.
Right.
Just a bad night of recording, and but there are some good ones in that series. It's just not the upcoming ones for a little bit. And you could always catch me. Well, I didn't even say my channel name, but it's Gaming with Caffeine Rage, and I tweet on Twitter with Gaming with CR. I've removed the underscores.
There you go. I was about to go. And where can we find all of these things of yours?
And what are you doing?
Well, I'm a little bit torn at this moment. So I've got my Eve video that I was going to do ready, and it's in the queue. It should come out about a week from recording this, actually, because I'm still putting out the very last few videos from my backlog and the most recent couple of streams. But my Eve video should be out next Tuesday, by next Tuesday. I'm a little torn, though, on what I want to do next. I was going to start a new Space Engineers series where I was playing by myself so that it could be more cohesive, because when I was playing with other people and recording it, we had people in and out, and some episodes got kind of jumbled up, and one person would make like a ton of progress and the other person wouldn't, and it's like, oh, well, like the episodes would be really chaotic. And so I was...
Yeah, that's a problem with having quite a team playing together.
Yeah. So I was going to start a new series on that. But now I want to play golf. And I want to do a few golf videos.
You're trying to get me into golf, aren't you?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to make them work solo, but I have no idea how to make them work solo. So maybe. I think...
I have an idea.
Okay.
Me, you, and your wife playing golf on the YouTube channel.
That would actually be fun. I wish I had recorded that the other night, but I didn't. I just wasn't thinking. Like, I was just so excited to play. I didn't record it. That would be fun, though. But I think I'm going to lean more into the Space Engineers just because I actually can make that work solo. I don't know how to make golf work solo. Eventually, there's going to be some golf stuff on my channel that's not just streams, but that's like probably a month down the line. So I'm going to start recording my Space Engineer stuff this week, and you can expect that sometime next week. Once I get some episodes recorded, by the next time we record, I'll have a more concrete plan on where I'm going with that Space Engineer stuff. But for now, it'll be coming the next week. And then my backlog stuff, that's what's going to be coming this week. And my Eve video will be up around the time that we record next time. You can find all of those videos on the Gaming Psychologist channel on YouTube. And you can follow all of my interesting and snarky tweets on @JMA4707. That is on the Twitters. I'm trying to post more tweets. I was posting quite a few before Christmas, and I've gotten out of the habit of tweeting a whole lot.
Yeah, Twitter, you really have to watch it, and I tend to tweet at people more than I tweet just out there in general.
Yeah, same for me. But I'm going to be better about posting tweets. I try not to post like really spammy tweets, just stuff that I find interesting or little quips that I have or thoughts that I have.
You know, sometimes I go on a rant and do 2 or 3 tweets in a row.
Yeah. Occasionally I post something very real, like I did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But those are pretty rare. And outside of the Twitter and the YouTubes, that's all I've got this week.
Yeah, and if you want to reach us for email, if you want to reach us beyond just our Twitter feeds, you can contact us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters. And yes, B-Lug, you are more than welcome to send in as many as you wish.
Also, we're on iTunes. We mentioned that last week, but we're pretty much going to keep plugging that away every week now. We're on iTunes. Just search for Video Game Logic.
Did you ever figure out the bars?
No. I sent an email asking, where I could figure out, or where there's a guide or something to figure it out. No response. Apple support. You suck.
Well, you just need to go to the Genius Bar.
Yeah, right.
Einstein will explain it all to you.
Right. I could go to Mac Authority. That's my local Apple store. Can you guys explain to me how your podcast bars work? That guy would probably just stare at me like I had a face hugger attacking my face.
There's some YouTube content for you. Just get glasses with a hidden camera and go ask that.
I mean, I wear glasses, so all I need is a hidden camera. It'd be more...
of course, your idea of a hidden camera is just duct taping a webcam to it.
I'd stick like a pin camera in my beard. Sir, why do you have a pin in your beard? Don't judge me. Don't worry about it. Just answer my question. But no, you can find us on iTunes by searching for Video Game Logic. You can subscribe to us there, download our podcast. We would really appreciate reviews, positive or negative. Although if you're going to leave negative reviews, please give us some constructive feedback as to why you left a negative review, and we'd like to work on it.
Sorry, I'm still thinking of a camera in your beard, and I'm having a flashback to my TF2 days. There's a cosmetic for the spa that has a fake beard with a camera in it.
My beard is perfect right now for that. It's about time to trim it, but it's very thick and warm.
Get the weed eater out?
Yeah, it's time to get the weed eater out and stick it to my face and hope that the strings don't break again.
And, well, we also have a website, if you want to find us beyond iTunes, Video Game Logic Podcast at blogspot.com. I didn't forget it this time around.
There you go. I am considering in some of my spare time that is currently filled with multiple Eve screens and actually doing a few blog posts that...
Yeah, but would that show up on the RSS feed? I'm not sure.
As long as
how
I don't
that's
put the
handled.
podcast tag on it, it shouldn't show up on the RSS
Okay.
feed. I'll do a test post before I actually start posting things, because I'd hate for us to have like 50, useless dead links on iTunes. But we could remove one pretty easily. But
Assuming that you could contact Apple.
yeah. But I used to do blogging a lot, and I'd like to do some more. And I think that would be a fun way for me to keep in touch with you guys and keep our brand going.
Yeah, especially now that you're not slaving away over the show notes.
Yeah. Let those creative juices flow. I've got a whole bunch of leftover blog ideas back from when I used to blog regularly, so might put some of those on there, and I don't know, we'll see. I'll have to show you my list at some point of all of these crazy ideas I had that never came to fruition.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. There's some doozies, let's say.
And are some of those ending up in the discussion if we ever have a slow news week?
I don't know. All right, we're going to do this right now. Let me go look at Blogspot at my old blog. I mean, we've got time. We could end early, or we could just keep going and push up right up to that 3-hour mark. All right, here's...
Well, this is pre-editing, though.
That's true. I can,
Of course, now that you're listening to this, it's post-editing.
Yeah. All right. Top of the list. Video game porn parody titles.
Oh, boy.
There's got to be a better way to sort this. Feminism in video games. I think that one's on the top of the list.
Well, it's in there in a way, and that is such a touchy topic.
Racism in games. Top 10 video games, which, top lists, we're going to do that eventually. Mm-hmm. Made in the USA, game development from around the world compared to the United States.
Yeah, which I don't know enough behind the scenes for developers to be able to really comment on that.
Yeah, see, that's why this wound up on the list. Some of these are like things that I just couldn't figure out how to make work. And some of them are things where I was like, well, I'll shelve that, and then maybe one day I'll have enough knowledge to be able to discuss that topic.
I do know that Japanese developers, just the Japanese mindset in general for the workforce, your job is your life.
Yeah. I can't think of it offhand, but I studied about it when I was working on getting my degree.
Some of the stories that you hear for Japanese workforce is just insane.
Well, there's a specific term to describe people who die while they work. Like it's a...
in Japan?
Yeah.
Japanese?
Yeah. It's a term of endearment that describes people who die while on the job.
Excuse me while I Google that.
All right. Here's another list. It came...
I think I found it in Karoshoshi? Karoshi? Death from Overwork?
Yeah. That's it. Let's see. Here's another one. It came from the internet. So my intent behind that one, if I remember correctly, is like these weird games that I just found online, like weird Flash games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be like a recurring thing. Here's the first smatterings of the gaming psychologist on my old blog. And here's where Steam Roulette came from as well, which is a dead series.
Yeah, we're just rambling.
It's a dead series on my YouTube channel. The best...
Well, there's a lot of dead series on your YouTube channel.
The best one is video game porn parody titles, though. That's the best one. We should do that. Not right now, but later we should do that.
We're going to end up on so many lists.
Yeah, we are.
And we're going to lose that kid-friendly tag.
Nah, whatever. Wasn't expecting to get that in the first place.
Okay, now, make sure your parents aren't listening.
All right, here's an easy one. Low-hanging fruit. Ass Effect. Oh, World of Wankcraft.
Oh boy.
This is going to ruin it for any KSP fans out there. Kerbal Spunk Program.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I could almost see the subscriber numbers going down as you continue.
Yep, I'm done. I'll stop. Oh, speaking of subscriber numbers, did I tell you that we're up to 30 now?
You mentioned 30. Yeah,
we're up to 30 subscribers.
Yeah. I have a feeling that's going to be a peak for a while.
So,
as I quickly go through the last of my checklist, our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and his work can be found at Incomputech.com.
That's the last thing on the list, right?
Yep.
Any closing comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to salvage now.
Yeah, you're trying to push me. Now it's you pushing me to shut up instead of me pushing you to shut up and move on.
I'm trying to salvage our reputation.
I mean, I can just edit that out. Maybe.
Especially, that does remind me, there's one last thing on my list, is that we got a big shout out from the Boosters and Space Tape podcast. You haven't heard it yet because you're still behind on your podcast, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm way behind on Boosters and Space Tape. I've only listened to, I think, 2 or 3 episodes of Boosters and Space Tape.
Yeah, their latest episode, right at the end of it, they gave us a huge shout out, or I should say Akinesis Gaming in general.
Yeah, Aki's a big contributor to us. Where's your letter this week, Aki? I'm calling you out. You want to fight? Let's fight about it. No, you've helped us out.
You're going to be fighting an Eve, aren't you?
Do what?
You're going to be having an Eve fight. Again.
No, please don't war deck me and Eve, Aki. I apologize. I love you.
Don't make me separate you two.
Now kiss.
Now kiss.
But yeah, we really appreciate it. And eventually I'll catch up and I'll hear it personally.
Yeah, and I'll throw a link to Boosters and Space Tape in the show notes. And now I'm done.
All right. Well, as always, as the music starts to roll over my voice, bye-bye now.
And I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.